So attackable. Excuse me.
Stuff that I will keep forever. So I.
Just so you guys can see what.
Like in terms of like an old photo of my father or whatnot, so those kind of things I keep. But when it comes to like Aviator Nation quotes, like if somebody came over to my house and goes, "Hey, can I have 6 of those?" Like, my brother's come over to my house and he's gonna clear it. You know, like I'm gonna take this because I generally looking for a problem.
So the self-critical voice serving your purpose in terms of because you're pretty. You know, I'm a fan of yours, so you're known to be a little bit lazy sometimes.
100% lazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the self-critical voice, don't you think that it's serving a purpose of fighting off the laziness, beating off the laziness?
The self-critical voice that I have, I've been able to compartment. How do you say it? Compartment.
Yeah. However you say it. You're free.
Yeah. Put it in a compartment.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm able to like I'm a good avoider. I'm good at avoidance. So for instance, right now to avoid, I've been playing Stardew Valley. You know what that is?
No. It's a phone game or?
No, it's a you can play it on your Switch, but it's on the Xbox, and it's a farming simulation game. And so I like to farm. You know what I mean? And so in playing video games and doing stuff like that distracts me from what really is going on.
Okay, you
Deathmatch.
mentioned elsewhere in terms
What
of
are
video
you?
games, Elder Scrolls.
Yeah, did you play that?
Blackthorn.
Yeah, of course. It's probably my favorite game. If I could live in a world, you played Morrowind and Skyrim.
And I played Oblivion.
Oblivion.
I played a little bit of Morrowind, but I didn't like the graphics back then. But I really played the. Can I swear on this podcast?
Yeah.
I played the fuck out of Oblivion and Skyrim. Like 8 characters, played it all the way through. I had to do all the quests. That type of thing.
What's your favorite thing about those games? Why did you spend so much time in that world?
Because I like games that grind.
What do you mean?
So like Stardew Valley, for instance, right? There's a lot of
Back to the farm.
back to farming, right? It's the same thing as Skyrim, which is why I like it. Is that there's a lot of like I have to collect a lot of these things. You know what I mean? I have to just constantly pick things up. You know what I mean? Like for instance, in Skyrim, there's a mushroom called Blisterwort mushroom that you can pick, and then you can make it into some sort of formula, right?
Yeah.
Potion.
Yeah, that
right?
potion, yep.
So I would spend like literally human 12 hours a day going to every cave and picking up as much Blisterwort as I could, like that kind of grinding. You know what I mean?
Shit.
Yeah.
So you're actually the randomly generated quests that these games do,
Yeah,
designed for people like you.
Yeah,
You don't
yeah.
get bored. That's the fun.
Yeah, that's the fun
Grind.
for me.
Okay.
Yeah, there's always something to do, and I find, like when you play a game that's linear, like there's certain games where you have to go this way, right? I don't like games like that. I like open world games where I can make choices and I can grind.
Would you stay in that world if you could live in that world, in the Elder Scrolls world? That's how I see it.
In reality, or become like a animated thing.
Well, no, say like virtual reality. We're moving towards that direction.
Oh, yeah,
If you look at Skyrim, you mentioned graphics. It's starting to get realistic. Like I'll sometimes just walk around. I mean, it's been a while, but I'll just
Maroon?
walk
Hell
around in
yeah.
Skyrim. You can there's code you can turn off enemies and you just walk around.
Really?
You can just listen to music and just walk around.
That's what you did?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I would do that. Wouldn't you do that? Would you do it with
Yeah.
me?
You sure?
We would have a house together?
Oh, I mean live. I thought walk around.
No.
House together.
No. If you and I were able to go into Skyrim, right, and walk around and live together.
Would we make love?
No, man. Don't go there. No. Because we like girls, man. Yeah, that's right.
It's not gay. You just told me it's not gay.
Yeah. All right, so you and I would...
I would hunt. We would gather.
But in that world,
There's no hunting.
yeah, but there is hunting. I would have... Because we don't
Just
have to
for
find
food.
bandits. We have to fight... I'm not going to gather a bandit. I'm going to hunt them.
But I thought you said it's all about the ocean. You don't need the bandit.
Okay, well, we could do this. You could be the guy that like defends our place, right? I'll gather all the reward, all the white caps, all the mushrooms. I'll get all the food. You know what I mean? I'll go to White Run. Remember White Run? Yeah. Right? Or Winterhold, and I'll do all the like quests that have nothing to do with. You know what I mean?
So no dragons though?
No dragons, but we would have a banquet. We invite the Dark Brotherhood, right? The Fighters Guild, we definitely invite them. Mages Guild, we'd invite them.
Are you a thief kind of guy?
I'm a thief guy. Yeah, I'm a thief for life. Yeah, I'm a thief guy for life.
And you still wouldn't invite Andrew?
No. What a piece of shit, though, huh? Because let me just say something, okay? I just want to get back to that, okay?
Okay, sure.
So I met him at the Montreal Comedy Festival, and him and I are kindred souls. We really connected. And he did my podcast. He's done it several times. Done his. We've like communicated on the phone, this and that. And to me, and then he invites Whitney Cummings, which Whitney is a good friend of mine. But what I'm saying is that I know Andrew as well as Whitney knows him. I don't think that Whitney knows him more than I do, right?
What if it was a competition? Tie, you know, and be like a Bobby Lee versus Whitney.
Yeah.
In what way do you think she's better? In what way do you think you're better?
I think it's all about gender. Right? So the comedian, he has all these alpha males coming, and he's like, all right, I have one more seat left.
Yeah.
Whitney or Bobby, but Bobby is, although I don't think there's a lot of Koreans there, so he didn't use that card. Right, but I think he went for, Whitney's a woman that's better for Oscar.
Okay, so she was a diversity hire for the wedding. Yeah. I see. It was pretty fun. It was pretty. I have to say, it was Joe Rogan, his wife, and then Whitney.
Are those the only comedians that were there?
I spent the whole time talking to Joe, so I think I don't think there was that many comedians. So I'm kind of joking about it. It was pretty fun.
Yeah. What do you talk to Joe about?
First of all, we're both rappers. So we talk a lot about jiu-jitsu. We talk a lot about.
I'm a grappler.
Are you?
I was a grappler.
Yeah, I know this.
Is that a grappler? Is he that I don't know jiu-jitsu? Is there only one kind of grappler that you like?
Yeah, there's levels. No, there's nothing more.
Yeah.
There's no. That's the surprising
Ooh,
fact.
soul
That
room?
you drop that. Almost feels like a lie. If you said that before that you were a wrestler
Yeah.
in high school, it doesn't make sense.
Well, it's funny that you say that because, and I'm going to cause a little controversy here.
Yeah.
But Joe Rogan one time came to me when he lived in LA years ago. He said, "You're a liar.
Yeah.
You've never grappled." And I go, "Yes, I did. You're a fucking liar." And at that time, I didn't have the photos to prove it. But if you look at my Instagram, I have photos. That I was a grappler.
Of you as a young man dressed in the singlet or what?
On the wrestling team.
On the wrestling
If you go to the fucking, sorry, if you go to my, right, if you go to my fucking high school, right, I was on the wrestling team for 3 years.
I'm not gonna go to your high school, so is there actual photo evidence of you?
Yeah,
I know.
you know what, you're being like Rogan right now, and I mean, it really is.
How do we know it's not Photoshop?
Well, you be the judge then, dude. Okay, so this is my brother and me in high school on the wrestling team.
Which? Oh, it's you.
I'm the bottom. That's my brother to the left. I mean, yeah, to your right.
Oh, handsome.
Yeah, I'm not. That's
Bicep.
yeah.
How much do you weigh? Wow.
At the time, I weighed. I was on the 105 weight category. Yeah. But so I was also on the tennis team. What people don't realize is that I'm very athletic.
Okay.
Yeah. And I resent the fact that people that think that I'm not because I'm doughy.
You're an athlete, so which is very surprising to me.
Why?
That so I was invited to the wedding.
Yeah.
I've also been on Joe Rogan's podcast. He's a big fan of yours.
I know. I love Joe. No, Joe. When Joe's NIC to the we hug and stuff, we talk.
I just talked to him today. Said I'm talking to you. This is
Yeah.
hilarious. So why? Oh, you hug him? You just never.
It just hasn't worked out. Like I don't want to go like, hey, because I don't want the rejection. So it's like if I go,
Right.
hey, can I do that? And he goes, I don't know, man. I'm busy, man. Yeah, I got a lot. I mean, maybe later. I don't want that. So if if he said, hey, are you available Thursday, this day, fly out, do my podcast, I would 100% do it.
And that hasn't happened yet. So interesting.
Why is it interesting?
I don't know, cause you're like I said, you're one of the funniest people in the world. That'd be a great conversation. It's just funny it hasn't happened yet.
Well, it's like this conversation. It's like I just learned how to tell time. Not like I know how to write digital.
You showed up on time.
No, digital. I know how to write digital, obviously, but in terms of the hand clock,
Yeah.
I just learned that 6 months ago.
How to operate a hand clock.
To read a hand clock.
Hand clock.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not that I obviously I'll be able to absorb the information.
God, I find these every day.
I just refuse to learn things.
What did you think it was before?
I would look at it and I would try to sometimes, like if I was at a train station, and I would look at those old clocks.
Yeah.
I would look at it and try to guess, and I would kind of go, I think this is the way, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
like not fully, you know what I mean, really grasp
So the way ancient people looked up at the sun to try to tell time, you looked at the clock.
Right. Like for instance, like we don't look at the sun, right? So to me, it was an obsolete information to me because of digital.
You already had digital.
Yeah.
And so that's somehow comparable to you going to Joe Rogan.
And you, because it's like I don't know much about
Podcasting?
No, podcasting I can, but in terms of like singularity and all that stuff, like I know what it is. You know what I mean? When machines gonna have consciousness, when is that gonna happen?
Soon. Are you afraid of robots? See, if you were in Austin, I would show you some robots.
Oh, I'd love to.
Are you afraid of robots?
No, I love it.
You love it.
Oh yeah. In fact, I have this. I think to me, unless they become hostile and it becomes like the Terminator, which I think could happen, right? Could be a Skynet, we could bring it down, whatever.
Well,
But
there's definitely going to be atomic weapon systems. So a lot of the robotics research is being conducted, funded by the military.
wow,
You know, the military-industrial complex.
I know what that is. Yes.
Yeah, so a lot of the cutting-edge research is funded by DoD, Department of Defense, DARPA, and so on. So a lot of the robots will be used in war, but hopefully not. Most consumer robotics will be in the home. We're trying to verify it.
No. But can I ask you this though? What you're saying to me is that as a layperson, that in my lifetime, that machines will have consciousness.
Oh, that I don't know.
Computers.
I'm one of the people. Depending, you live dangerously, so I don't know how long you're gonna live. So but I believe that consciousness, yes, could be engineered in a machine, or at least we can have machines that are human-like, and we believe they have consciousness.
Can I ask you one last question? Will they have the smoothness of skin, and will they look realistic?
Yeah, I'm one of those people that believes that visual appearance isn't just the magic. So if you close if you're blind, you can still look at each other.
Hello.
People can fall in love with each other through just letters.
Thank you for the follow.
So, yeah, I know you're mocking
That was really bad.
the entire energy. But yes, yes, I believe that part too.
Get 'em, boys!
Probably getting it. Okay.
How you doing, Yellow?
Just friends, but you want to feel the smoothness.
Yeah,
of
like
their
a guy,
skin.
like just go, what's up, dude? And just
Yeah, just.
Do you need a Shaco? Yeah, I do.
I
mean, eventually,
right?
you know.
Obviously, there's no control. You're
Not the
right.
first on my list,
And
but
I'm just curious to see.
Have you
You're
seen?
right. I was going with sex bots, but
Yeah. Have you seen Whitney Cummings' robot?
yeah.
How's that?
beautiful girl. I just don't find her attractive.
The robot or what?
I find the robot way more attractive. Yeah, if I had the choice, well,
So you were turned on by the robot. Yeah, I was surprised by the very thing you're saying, which is the realism of the skit. Like it was quite. They did a really good job with the robot. They did. The light when
Chancy's
when
Viper
animated,
Magi. I have a
the light
Viper.
is not quite there.
I have Chancy's.
So just sitting there still.
Well, what do you need?
There's a lot of human-like elements. The texture.
I'm in no rush to get
Yeah,
it,
it's
so.
quite
so they're
fascinating.
getting there.
They're getting there.
Yeah.
But the funny thing about sex robots is most people that get sex robots, they don't get it for the sex. They get it for like not sexual intimacy, but like just somebody being there. It's the emotional connection, not the sexual.
Yeah, I mean,
For
I
a
saw
Baroon?
a long
Yeah,
time
well,
ago a
You
documentary
do
about
know you're not gonna get anywhere close to a
Yeah,
Baroon
and
or Shaco,
what
I
I
assume.
was fascinated about is the cuddling, you know what I mean, and then watching TV together and stuff like that, which I find, I've just been able to find human girlfriends and stuff. So
That's really impressive.
Thank
That's
you.
one of the reasons.
Hey,
Speaking of human girlfriends, I'd love your advice in this direction. But you have an amazing relationship with Kalila.
yeah.
So you two are very different. So you host a podcast together. There's real love there. There's real connection. What do you love most about Kalila? Talk about love, Bobby.
Yeah. I mean, that's a really deep. I've never really gone.
No,
down
yeah. No, I got what you're saying.
We're gonna walk down that
I'm just.
together.
Some people don't understand how
It's one of those things.
the economy
where
works, so.
The first time I met her, it was almost as if I had known her all my life. It was really weird. You know what I mean? There was a trust there. You know what I mean? That was just fundamentally there. That I could trust her, and that I could, when I look in the mirror and I see all my character defects.
And any goodies today? I
a lot
just
of
started the
things are
grind,
not
so.
necessarily things I want to share with people because
Found like a
I'm
lum rune and something else, like real
with her,
basic kind of garbage.
comfortable doing those things, and I
So
think
far.
she feels the same way about her. And then secondly, she's funny. I mean, she made me laugh, and she.
I did find something
It's
last
all-
night, like right
I
after
mean,
I
it's
stopped
a
streaming,
perfect-
ironically.
Perfect combination of things.
Of course.
I mean, one night we were in bed, and I forgot what the joke was, but she really made me laugh one night. She was living in an apartment in Long
Sojin a sham? What do you what do you run? What are you farming?
Generally, women don't make. I mean, not women I'm dating. Comics do. Don't make me cackle in that way. And then, thirdly, she has. She's partly Asian. So it's like, one time I dated a white girl, and I invited her to Korea.
The gold find summon druid. What the heck?
And what I love
You
about
what?
Asian girls is they'll eat something first and ask what it is after, but white girls ask what it is before. What is this? Right? But Kamala would eat the eyeball, eat everything, go, what did I just do? I like that. You know what I mean? So it's like, and it reminds me of my mom in that way, in terms of like, my mom growing up just to scare us and freak us out. We'd have a fish, and she would eat the eyeball first to see us squirm. And as a kid, they thought it was gross and weird and this and that, but it's like, when
Play
Kalila
gold
does
cap
that,
and roll like
kind
you.
of like, I don't know,
Oh god.
make it like at home.
The little act of feel like that.
Yeah.
Just put in your mouth, figure it out.
Yeah, that's what I like. And at the end of the day, she also, out of all my girlfriends, and this is gonna sound not strange, but hard to admit, but my career when I met Kalila
What do you,
was in the shit box.
I just shank and
I
trap.
could not get anything going, and this is at the time where Ken Jeong, who's a very good friend of mine, very talented, was getting everything. And I just remember going, I can't even get an audition. Like, I can't. I would go on the road, Lex, and I would fill half the room. I just couldn't sell tickets. And when I met her, I was just kind of like, maybe this is I have to find love and open up my world in that way. And she was the first girlfriend that I ever had that looked at me and saw the potential.
Yeah, I'll
And
try
she
some
said,
Travs.
"No, this is not. Doesn't feel right. You're so funny, and you're so relevant to me, and this is what we're gonna do." And so she started Tiger Belly, and then obviously I had the
God, he gets
skill set to
crushed
do it.
so bad.
But once Tiger Belly happened, and then Andrew was like, "Let's do Bad Friends," and then now things are great. My career is, I'm too busy almost in a way. And I feel like she had a lot to do with, like, for instance, before I met her, even if I would get an audition, I wouldn't go because I just wouldn't get it. In my head, I was like, I'm not gonna get this. I've gone on 1,000 of these, and they just never hire me. But so I just didn't go on them for years. And then she was the first girlfriend that said, no, I don't care if you don't get it, right? I just don't want you to be a pussy. And I want you to walk in fear. And so she would drag me to these fucking things, and I, for some reason, would push them. You know what I mean? So, in that
She
way,
saw the potential.
No, yeah, I
in
know.
you, But
Yeah.
she loved you for who you are already.
yes,
But when there's
but also
multiple, it
loved you
kind
for
of
the
makes it
potential
hard.
to become.
yeah, and I'm lucky in that way.
So on day one, you could show her. You said you could show her your flaws to her, like you felt like you could be fragile with her.
Well, I accidentally farted
Yeah. Day one.
on day one, because I'm a fart machine, and I have loose cheeks.
I like how you were, for the listeners, you just winked at me,
I have loose cheeks, and
but not in a gay way.
not in a gay way, no. And we were on a couch and we're talking.
So-
and I
they're so
my
stupid.
body. I ripped one by accident, and she laughed. You know what I mean? It wasn't embarrassing, And also, I have a little penis. I have a little penis, and yeah, it's been little.
But relative to everybody's penis is
Yeah, but I'm not an elephant. I'm a human. You know what I mean? So relative to humans, it's very small. And so when she saw it, you know what I mean, I thought she was gonna balk at it, right? And she looked at it as if it was like an orphan. Like I wanna, it's a lost child, and I wanna, take care of it. Yeah.
cradle it.
The cradle.
Warm.
Yeah. What about you, man? You haven't met anybody like that?
Never met a girl. Never seen one of them. I hear they're nice. when are the two you get married?
We don't know yet. Yeah.
Is that something you like?
Yeah.
This comes up sometimes.
We're in couples counseling. We're working on some issues that we have.
Sure.
Every relationship, even my friendships, have issues. And so we're working through some issues, and once we get to the end of it, we'll figure it out.
Would you like to be a father one day?
+3, 10 FCR Blue Amy. No, I got tails. So here's what I'm working
This
with.
is kind of couples counseling.
Yeah.
Bell rushes,
I do.
full
Because
set.
I feel like
39 chances.
You know,
2
before I
real
was very
basic
childlike,
FCR rings.
I play a lot of video games. I'm
11, could be
irresponsible,
better.
lazy, this and that, right? But
Hotspurs, rhyme.
to be honest with you, Lex, in the last
This should be
6 months, I've really have come through some
a spirit.
and I'm in therapy.
I need a 35
and I'm doing a lot
FCR
of
spirit
things,
to
and
get
I'm
it to
really
where I need to be.
self-analyzing myself and my behaviors and what I want, my desires, and I think ultimately, yes, I really do, because it's a life experience that I don't want to be an old man looking back and going. It's something that I've always was interested in, and I think it's based on fear because I don't want to
Give you a 30 Angels and an Aussie.
the way my parents scarred me. But at the same time,
For free?
my parents didn't do the work on themselves like I am.
I mean, I guess if I had
They
something
were
useful,
about
I would
food.
give it to
They
you.
were
But
just
if you,
about
yeah, I
food.
mean, if you want to help me out, man, I'm not going to say no.
Food on the table.
That's kind of the beauty of,
After that, they just went about.
I've said it over and over every stream, that's the beauty of this game, is that, like, whenever I would quit, well, not quit, but, retire for the season or whatever I wanted to do when I didn't want to play anymore, I would just give my stuff away, man. It's like,
as
I spent so many hours of my life getting it, but I mean, who cares,
I would completely do it differently, even yelling and and those kind of things, I would be very mindful about those things. And I think that I have certain things, I'm
Yeah,
not a
I'm NA.
sciencey guy like you, but there are life things that I've learned over the years that I could teach a child, about living in the moment or walking
Freaking
through
bug.
fear or, things that, things
Fuck.
will pass and just different things, that I would be a good listener and, yeah, I would
It's
like
like
to do that.
So
freaking
your
fruit flies make a
dad
normal game.
died in
Okay.
August of 2019.
Yeah. You did your research.
Yeah, it's on your Wikipedia. No, I don't know.
Yeah.
So you said some of it was rough, but what's your
NF1.
memory?
That's a hell game. I'm an idiot. Apologize.
Well, those memories happened later in life. As a child, my fondest memory was my
NF2
mom,
password
because he never
2.
spent time with us. So my mom made him take me out one day,
Freaking fruit flies,
and he
man.
took
They're
me to
just
a park. Like he
awful.
doesn't, there was no baseball glove or
Good to see
baseball or anything like that. And we sat on a park bench, right? And we just sat there for hours. We didn't talk because he didn't know English that well. I didn't know Korean. So it's just very, basic, information being, you know what I mean? How you? This is how we go. How you doing? I'm okay. Good, good, good. That type of
Apple
thing.
cider. Yeah.
For a long time, and then, but the day turned bad because I forgot my jacket there, and he yelled at me. In the
But
car
there's
ride.
a bit of peace together.
At that time, yeah, there was
Oh,
peace.
bro.
But then what
What?
happened was
Just have these extra?
later in life, when I got Matt TV, and I was doing, in my early years,
don't have room.
I booked a couple of things like in
Gonna have to
2000 I did the Tonight
make
Show
my build, bro.
with Leno, and then I did I got Matt TV in 2000, and wow, that was
Yo, this
over
is
20
too
years
much,
ago.
man.
And that's when my parents kind of went, huh, because obviously, there's some nepotism in Hollywood, right? But in my case, my parents were straight up immigrants. I had no connections
What
to
do I have
Hollywood.
for runes?
And I came up here poor, with no connections.
Be able to like
and I
build
built
multiple characters.
it, you know what I mean? Through the years, and in that way, I'm very proud of myself.
I mean,
because
my
went
next
through a lot
next
of
thing.
fucking hell.
I keep forgetting that I have that on. Dude, I really appreciate this. Thank you so much. I'm gonna have to remake my character. Well, not remake the character, but respec everything. I don't know what to say. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm gonna be putting that work in, baby. Okay. Let's think here. What is this? Kraken's probably worth a Vex. Really? For what? Who's gonna use it? Like put what, a fort? Make a fort out of it? Not F. I believe you. I just don't know who would use that. You know what I mean? I gotta get rid of some of this. These aren't garbage. Do you have a Thul rune? Or yeah, true. So I could make us. Or wait, nice. Althul or Am. Yeah. Alright, what do you think it's going to be? Call it. Call it right now. 34! No! Oh. Oh, so close though. Damn, it's so annoying. I'm not gonna lie. Alright, but it's all good. But 148, that's literally perfect defense. Yeah, I mean, I'll keep this one. Okay. First of all, sell this. Why do I have some of this stuff? This stuff I'll keep for start. This side. Keep this for when I'm like leveling my path. Okay, yeah, you're good. Don't need stuff, gotta. Alright, so I probably want 3-piece. I trashed the whole tails. But 3-piece gives you 65 MF. So I do like that. So I'm trying to maximize Magic Find. Definitely give me a different rank. Scolders. Right. 70 FCR. This is like essentially exactly where I want to be. See how much MF I have here. 430. That's pretty ridiculous. I mean, minus this, I guess, so 405. Versus I put on, I mean, this will just replace it, because... No. Say Amara's. And how much CR do I have? 80. This. I have an Alibaba on Switch. What are my resistances going to be in hell? No? 80 FCR? Like, I don't even need that 10. Because it's 63 and then... 63 and then 105. So if I'm at 70, that's good. 282. 109. No, 105 is breakpoint. Yeah, I think it's like 20, 38, 63, 105, 200. There's 282. Magic Find diminishing return. Let's take a look at this. The 3. Finishing returns graph. So 400 is pretty much like the... 400 is kind of almost the max. Between 4 and 500 you hit. Yeah. Yeah. 3/3 poison level up. Damn, feels bad. Set my stats so I can...
The Order welcomes you.
Nice. $56. Nothing else is gonna give me strength. $104. That's so obnoxious. But I could use this and then 105 or 110, right? Oh. Well, let's just say this. So, so 282. I could be at 105 versus 435. I could be well above 70. What? You can make. I don't know. Thank you. I just get the Scully and it'll be over that. Oh yeah, I keep forgetting that. GG, you win. Everyone's happy. And plus I can just swap for bosses. Hold on, let me... R104. 74. I mean, that's good. Do you have another Nagel ring? Full name is pretty legit. I just sold that frickin' bow and then people want... Get one on Tradery. What's that? The only thing I want to see now is under 20. Sure, see. Right. Trading site for D2. Okay. Thing. I mean, I've used JSP. People frown on that, but it's I've just used it forever. I don't have much form gold at this moment. Let me look at my resistances and how. JSP broke the economy. Yeah, of course, it always does, because people bought so hard. Okay, yeah, so that's what makes it tough. If I get rid of this, minus 22, we're all going to be pretty garbage. I get rid of that and this. Sucks. The recovery is 60. Let's look at the breakpoint. Phone's freaking blowing up. Now what are my resistances with... Yeah, so plus the lightning, fire, cold. Or no, lightning, cold, poison. Still not better. What would be ideal probably would be a Hodo, but it doesn't have anywhere near the magic find. Yes. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Yeah, we're saying the same thing.
Not in town.
Now what should I put the rest of my points in? And I shouldn't just keep going into this, right? I just like, I don't know what else to put it in. Yeah? Keep putting in Cold Mastery. I'm gonna keep them for now, but... It ignores... No, I thought they fixed that. Forget Chilling Armor. Yeah, I guess that's true. Forgot to frickin' have this on. Damn. That just froze. That was crazy. That was really weird. I like clicked and nothing happened. Servers have been kind of wonky. And Merc gets absolutely smashed though there. It's probably accurate. Treachery? Yeah. Know what I'm gonna do though. Probably, actually. What do I have that for?
Good day.
I'll put that to good use.
Now, let's see. Me. Oh, that's what I was gonna check. Sorceress FHR. 42, 60, and then 86. So 60 is perfect. Yeah, the breakpoints are 9, 20, 37, 63, 105. So I'm at 104, and that's so annoying. But it's all good. You need the perfect. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Absolutely obnoxious. But that's fine. I kind of like having to have a perfect build, you know? Not what I want. Not that either. Yeah, I found this yesterday, and the first thing I looked at was the lightning and fire damage, and I freaked out, and I was like, "No way!" I was so hyped, and then I saw it was +1. You know what this would be worth? If it was 20, 20, +3? Ugh. That's Darkwood. Probably, exactly, exactly. Found it in the cows. Do you have an pull? Yeah, didn't you just give me him? Yeah, you gave me you definitely gave me an and a pull. Found 31 war tribes for Ist. Yeah, I have 2. I have what you gave me. Honestly, I'd rather just buy unidentified ones or wait for somebody to join the game. A fucking L rune? Oh my lord. Thank you. What's the rabbit food next to it?
So you want that? I was like,
Yeah, I'm not gonna eat. I'll eat the zucchini. Thank you. It's way overpriced. Yeah, that's stupid. Out of there, fucking. Ooh, okay. I'm just gonna wear this for now, even though it's less magic find. Ooh, I was like, what the hell just happened? Just purely based on
Welcomes you.
oh, I can't even think. I want to hit 105 just because. I mean, look at the difference in teleporting. Let's go to Andy. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's just count 1, 2, 3, 4. Now 1, 2, 3. God, it's so much better.
Stay a while and listen.
Yup, I'm back. What's up?
Good day.
Ooh. Is this new? Gold Strike? Ever seen that? Was your evening? Good. I swear to God, I don't think I've ever found that. I've been playing this game since I was like 11 years old. Not even that, actually. I swear this does not proc fade sometimes. Alright. Oh, whoops. Forgot I was on. Alright, so I'm gonna watch this and eat for a minute. You guys can go this with me.
And sadness and desperation and all that stuff. And I persevered. And I did all that shit on my own, man. I booked the Tonight Show on my own. I got Matt TV on my own. And when I did those things, my parents were very proud.
But before that, did they doubt you?
Oh, yeah. You're not funny. You never make me laugh.
Yeah.
Right? And that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You're never gonna make it. You know what I mean? You're gonna be poor all your life. You know, that kind of stuff.
But Matt TV, he was proud. Your dad.
Well,
your parents?
because it was a weekly show, so on Saturday nights they would watch it.
They
and
would.
I would play characters that they would understand. Like I did Kim Jong Il at the time.
Yeah.
Right. So they loved that. Right. They loved the things that I would do, the physical comedy.
Yeah.
And they couldn't believe in their mind. Imagine your parents from Korea coming here, not knowing the language, having a child here, right? And in their minds, that was never like an option, right? And so when they see their kid, I guess, on TV, especially there was no internet too at the time. The internet had just started. So to them, they were like, this is a miracle. In fact, when I did the Tonight Show, my dad called me the next day and asked me, how much? He literally asked me this. He goes, how much did you pay them to do it? he thought that I had saved all my money. Like
Yeah.
he thought that like Tom Cruise goes up there and goes, "Here's $1,000. Thanks for having me on." Like you know what I mean? No, I go, "No, they asked me." Like so conceptually, they were just shocked by it. So when I got it, and then they were watching me weekly, Mad TV, the producer was like, "Hey, have your dad on." So my dad did 2 or 3 sketches on television. So those memories. I also did a pilot for Comedy Central, and he was on my pilot.
Pilot for like a show.
Yeah, show. I didn't get picked up, but he was on the pilot.
He was in the show.
Yeah, he was in the pilot. He was on Mad TV too, on television.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. So it's like he would get residual checks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Those change everything. Those nepotism in reverse.
Yeah. It was really nepotism in reverse. And so those memories are I have very fond memories because he had changed as well. He was no longer that violent kind of a guy. He had softened a lot. You know what I mean? But when he died, is when those issues came up. You know, like a freight train.
The bad stuff.
Oh yeah. And I didn't know what was going on. It was really hard.
You miss him? How often you think about him?
Every day. Obviously, a lot of it's regrets. You know what I mean?
Like what kind of regrets? Not having said something, or not having had a conversation?
It's not regrets because even if he was still alive, they're just things that are impossibilities because of his culture and the way he was raised. But my regret in life will always be having those types of, even because I was with my mom a couple of months ago, and I looked at her and I had tears in my eyes. We're at a Starbucks. I go, "Mom, I just want to let you know that I'm so sorry that you lived in that house and my dad, and dad hit you and you survived and you stayed in the marriage because of us, right?" And you know what her response was? "Let's go to Buca de Beppo." She wanted Italian food. Like there was nothing there, right? And so my regret is that, that they just will never be able to even grasp the concept of that kind of communication. You know what I mean? And I'll never have it. So that's sad to me, but there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah, that callous that comes with an immigrant mentality. You don't even, that emotional connection is not even there. I've had my grandmother.
Yeah.
There's something called Holodomor, which is starvation in Ukraine in the 1930s that you had to live through. She lived through World War II, and there's nothing like the only way you survive that is the callous. You can't talk about people that fought in major wars. They can't.
They can't. Yeah,
can't talk about it.
My mom, when she was 12 years old, she walked her little sister, my aunt, to school, right? She forgot a book. So my mom goes to my little sister, my aunt, "Stay here. I'm going to go get my book." She ran up. She came back. While she was gone, a military truck ran over my aunt. And my mom discovered her body, split in half, entrails, the whole thing. And my mom and my uncles had to go and get rice bags to pick up her, you know what I mean, and then bury my aunt. When you live through something like that, and also the guilt, because my mom believes deep down that if she didn't forget that book, that my aunt would still be alive, right? So she carries all this guilt and to survive all that trauma, you have to build a callus. Back then, they didn't have EMDR and therapists and psychologists and any of that, right? So they had to survive. So that's who she is, and it's sad to me that, you know what I mean, that she'll forever live in that torment.
Boy.
Yeah.
What about your own? What's been the darkest place
Hopefully you
you
can
ever
spread the
gone?
love later down the line. Oh, I will, man. That's what I'm saying.
In my mind.
Like, I'll play for a few
In
weeks
your
or a few
mind.
months.
Do you ever
I'll
consider
really just
suicide?
make something stupid
I
strong.
didn't write that down.
Okay,
When I'm
have you
done,
considered it?
I don't sell it for forum gold. I don't
I've just
do any of that. I just I might post and I'll make a game.
About 4 months ago,
I'll just give it
I
all
was
away,
in a
man.
really bad place.
I could have-
naked.
I could probably have, no joke,
in Arizona.
millions of foreign gold.
I hadn't eaten.
I've had
in, like,
every
almost
08
a week.
item.
I, hadn't
I
slept
never had a
in
Velk
over a week,
or
almost,
a,
you know, and I thought I was dying.
Tell
I was
Russia's
coughing up blood.
the Ami or the
And
armor, like
I
the bug
was
tells
waiting to go into a outpatient psychologist place. You know,
But that's
in
it.
Arizona. I literally
Other
thought
than
I was
that,
dying.
I've had every one of them,
Recently,
man.
I was
All
in
the
a
boots,
great
all the everything.
How much was that connected to losing your father? How much was that connected to rehab and that kind of stuff? Alcohol, drugs.
All the same thing, dude. It's all the same thing, man. It's all from my childhood, right? The reason why I do stand up is because of my childhood.
The hating yourself or like being self-critical, that has to do with your childhood.
Yeah.
So the drugs and drinking is childhood.
Childhood. It's all about survival and protecting your heart. You know, and there were ways that I did that as a kid, like using humor as a defense mechanism, and also avoidance of all emotions. You know what I mean? Because I just want to feel. And the reason why comedy is so good. The reason why I was able to survive in comedy is because I can withstand a lot of bullshit and pain. You know what I mean? Like physical, emotional, spiritual pain. I can absorb it, right? But now, what's happened, you know, later in life, is I'm unwilling to do that. I'm unwilling to absorb it. I'm unwilling to carry this weight around with me, and it'll kill me. So I am doing everything I can to free myself of all this baggage.
Okay, so how you're naked in Arizona in a hotel room? Face down or face up or on the side? What's your favorite when you go to a dark place? On the floor, on the bed, or
So what happened was
bathtub, shower?
a fetal position.
Okay.
I don't lay on my stomach. That's weird. Like I'm not doing like a downward dog or yoga position or anything like that. No, I'm
Sure.
like
On the bed, on the floor?
no. What happened was, so I had a relapse. So I was drinking all night long.
What was the first relapse? What is the first thing you did? Just drank what? Wine?
No, I took an edible. Yeah,
And that opened the door?
to drinking. Yeah, and the combination is not good for me. And the excess of the amount is not good for me. I just can't stop, and I do it 24 hours a day.
Were you alone?
Well, no, I was living with Kalila.
No, I mean at that moment when you do the edibles.
I was alone. No, I took a flight because I was shooting Magnum. I'm on a show called Magnum PI, so I was flying to Hawaii. So I bought edibles, and then right before I was
Jang
gonna
Bong.
get on the plane, I looked at my girlfriend and said, "I'm gonna relapse."
Oh, so you knew.
I knew. So I got on the plane.
overburdened.
I took it, and then literally the next 3 months were like a blur.
Why'd you know? What gave you the sense that you're gonna relapse?
There was a couple of things that happened in my life that were very shocking to me, and I wasn't going to meetings, and it's the same old story. You know, I was not connected to my sobriety brothers and sisters, and I was drifting away, and
And something in your mind, it was just.
the pain was too much. So I did it, and then so what happened was, now 2.5 months in, 3 months in, I started coughing up chunks of blood. Right, so because I've been a smoker since I was 17 years old, right, and I was smoking so much weed and cigarettes, I would just cough up blood. But then simultaneously, what happened was Bob Saget and Louis Anderson died, right? And that week, when I was coughing up blood, and because I knew them, both of them, I was in my head going, I'm next, because to me, everything happens in threes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, and I had convinced myself that I was gonna die, and I was on the precipice of death. And so I begged my people to put me into this place in Arizona. So, because I knew I needed to go to a really rigorous psychology program to get me out of what I was going through. And also, I was getting at that time when I was in that hotel room, I had not drank or even smoked a cigarette or been drugged in a week. I had to wait in LA for this bed to open up, right? So I was coughing up blood. I hadn't slept. I hadn't eaten, right? I was sober, but, you know, I was in so much pain. And I slept naked by the door of this hotel room because I thought it would be easier for the maid to discover my body. I mean, that's how fucked up I was. I was just in this prison in my mind, you know? And,
Come on.
I'm much better now.
Can you give some insights to how to get out of that? How you got out of that place?
I think getting sober, first of all, was very important, but that still didn't do it completely, you know what I mean? I still was convinced that I was. And then I went to this place, and I did, you know, this place is a 12 hours a day psychotherapy place where you do 12 hours, you see therapists all day long.
So it's like a 12-hour long podcast every day?
Yeah. But with professionals, and they call you on your shit, and they tell you what's real, and they tell you, you know what I mean, you know, I'm going, also dealing with, you know, my dad, still some of these other things that, you know what I mean, and the third thing that happened was when I got back to LA after that place, I got my lungs checked out, and I got my physical done, and, you know, EKG, my heart, all of it, and I was completely fine. You know, and I quit smoking. I haven't smoked in almost 4 months. Been drinking, done drugs since then too. So, you know, there's definitely a complete clarity. And I have to also admit that this time around, it's been completely different.
Is there still in the distance like fear of relapse and all that kind of stuff?
Come on.
Like, still,
No,
so you feel good,
I feel great. Yeah, I feel better than I've ever felt.
even when hard shit happens?
Yeah, because it's like I no longer want to be in that place.
Yeah.
And also on top of it, it's like it would be a real shame because I've worked so hard to get to this place in my life, not just in my career, with all of it. You know what I mean? I have so much to lose. I have so many people that love me. I just don't want to be there again.
Let me ask you. Sorry, you've talked about this before, but it's like,
Let me ask you some questions. Do you always wear a suit only for the podcast?
yeah, I wear it in private too.
Oh, you do?
Not always now, because I get recognized, unfortunately, so
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
to be selective about how I wear.
Do you like it when being recognized or no?
So because of podcasting, as you probably know, the people that at least recognize me happen to be amazing people. So
Yeah.
it's an immediate connection. So there's two things about that I don't like. So one, I fall in love with people, and so the nature of interaction is like, well, it's gonna be short. So
Yeah.
so like you have to say goodbye, and I hate goodbyes.
You do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is just introversion. Like I'm an introvert. I have social anxiety. I have
Emral
nerves
Mal
about talking to people. and
Ist
so on.
Own. Need a
You
Mal
have
and
to
Ist
always-
Own.
I'm walking around always a little bit anxious that there'll be an interaction. But ultimately, once it starts, it's fun. It's beautiful. And then the goodbye is what hurts. So both the hello and the goodbye is what hurts. It's the stuff in the middle that's delicious.
I think there's a beautiful thing though for people like you and I in a weird way, you know, because number one, I don't know about you, but I'm an isolator. I don't really like, you know, any kind of social thing, you know. I like even when I was doing drugs and drinking, I never do it with people. I do it privately in a garage, you know. And secondly, you know, like my girlfriend and I watched The Northman, the movie The Northman.
No, what is it? Is it? Tell me the plot line.
You didn't even heard of The Northman?
I have not heard of The Northman.
It's Eggers. He did a movie called The Witch. He also did a movie called The Lighthouse. You ever seen The Lighthouse? Okay. You watch movies.
No.
You've never seen a movie.
I've seen The Godfather.
Yeah, I bet you money you've seen Dr. Zhivago.
Yeah.
You have?
Yeah.
Yeah, like you like historical sweeping.
Schindler's List.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's not historical or sweeping, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
you're not gonna. All right, so how do I explain? It's basically a Viking movie.
Okay.
Yeah, and one of the Skarsgård, I don't know, Skarsgård brothers is in it. Bjork's in it. Willem Dafoe, Nicole Kidman, and Ethan Hawke, and it's it's a Viking revenge movie.
So why does it make you think about isolation?
No, because no. What I was gonna say is when we went to the movie theater, right? Afterwards, there was a kid sitting next to me, and he just looks at me because I guess he didn't know I was sitting next to him or whatever, and he just went, hey, dude, I just can't believe you're sitting next to me, and you're my hero, and I'm doing comedy, and it's really hard. So I was able to give him some encouraging things, and because that's who I am too. You know what I mean? I want to help people, and I also the idea that he likes me because he also spouted off specifics about my life, about my comedy and this and that. So he definitely was a fan, and I was able to I'm not, even if I become Joe Rogan famous or that big, you know what I mean? I'm always going to say hi to people. I'm always gonna take photos with people. I like that part, of me. It makes me feel also that I belong in a weird way because I felt so invisible before I did comedy. You know what I mean? I felt invisible, and it puts me in the game of life, I think, in a weird way. So I think it's good for you as well.
Yeah, it's a little moment of experiencing love. It's like it does feel like celebrating life together. You smile at each other and so on. Although you did say, I think in a recent podcast that people recognize you, but recognize you incorrectly.
That I don't like. That's the opposite of love.
Okay.
Yeah, that I don't like. Loved you in the Hangover.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or this is what I don't like. This is what I hate it. Some guy will like me, right? I'll take a photo, and then other people will go,
That's annoying.
he's somebody, and will walk up to me and go, hey, so why did he take a photo? You know what I mean? I want a photo.
Yeah.
And then you're like, no, I don't do. Would you do that? No, I would. I don't like that.
No.
Yeah.
No. But I do like the experience where maybe there's a couple, a guy and a girl, boyfriend and girlfriend, and the guy is a fan, and the girlfriend has no idea. And it's always a funny interaction.
Oh yeah.
Because she's like trying to figure out what is happening here.
Yeah.
And it's always beautiful to see.
But what if the guy, the guy explains to his girlfriend who you are, do you feel uncomfortable about that? Do you like that?
Yeah. It loads. The information is transferred quickly, and she starts to understand because she's not used to her boyfriend being excited about a stranger.
Yeah.
It's like what's happening here? So it's a fascinating little dynamic. That's a beautiful. It's like the spread of information happens right there in real life. It's beautiful.
It's mostly though. Would you say that it's probably usually men that recognize you, or
No,
is it a
but
combination?
men. The thing I've discovered is men are more likely to approach aggressively. Right? Women recognize you. They have a different way of like double take. They don't want to invade your space. Guys are like, bro.
yeah.
They come in with a hug. I had South by Southwest. I had a guy. I was just walking to a 7. I go to 7-Eleven a lot. My favorite spot. Guy
7-Eleven?
7-Eleven. Yeah.
Why?
Sugar-free slushy. I think.
Oh, you like
For happiness, I find happiness at a 7-Eleven
so adorable.
late at night. And he came up and you know what? Can I tell you something that happened to me? I haven't told anybody. This never happened to me before. I was outside of a 7-Eleven in Austin. I'm not gonna say which one. And there was a gentleman that approached me. This was at 3 or 4 at night, which is usually when I go.
Let's go, baby!
And I just like to go and take a break.
Yes!
He approached me in the way that maybe somebody who recognized me approached me. He did a double take. He walked past me and then walked back and then looked at me. And I went into the 7-Eleven. I thought, that's weird. And then I came out with my slushie. And then he approached me and he said, can I give you a blowjob? So I have never. I have.
No, really?
Yeah. So the energy he put. I've never had.
Were you wearing a suit?
No.
Okay.
I was wearing like the sweatpants, and I was very kind of like hiding from the world.
Yeah.
Type of thing. I've never had anybody approach me that way, but the energy he put, the love he had in the approach, I thought he would be like,
Love you on Rogan?
yeah, love, yeah, something,
Yeah.
something like love, some kind of, and then he just said, "Can I?" I'm forgetting the exact wording because it wasn't. The wording was such that he wasn't. He wanted to make me happy.
Ah.
He didn't want to make himself happy. He wanted to make me happy.
Well, when
I forgot. Can I give you a blowjob? I think that was the. It's like,
because if he said, "Can you give me a blowjob?" It would be.
it would be very different.
Yeah.
No, but I think there's more aggressive way of phrasing that. But he presented himself. See, I forget. It was almost like gentle and poetic, and I was like, I just stuttered and said, no, thank you. Move past.
That's what everyone. Yeah.
No, thank you. To a
Well, no,
blowjob
I would
proposition.
probably stutter. No, thank you.
In my mind, I was like, this is a threat because Fortnite. I wasn't exactly sure. I mean, I've never experienced it. I imagine this is what sort of women often experience, the kind of danger, constant threats all around you. But I've never. It was a funny little moment. I didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
That happened, and I go to that 7-Eleven often looking for the guy. Because now,
All right.
now I would say yes. No.
There used to be a steam room in Beverly, on Beverly Boulevard, and my brother and I walked in there once.
These guys are too fun.
We walked in, and there was a man sitting there, erection, and his dick was so big he was jerking it up with both hands. And we kind of walked in, and he goes, "What's up?" And he just did it, and we just sat there. You know what I mean? Because it was not aggressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe that was the same feel. You sense that it wasn't an aggressive thing.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. It was just he was just minding his own business, and he threw it out.
But it wasn't sexual either. It was like, it's just like love or something.
Yeah.
I felt like it's almost like, can I give you a hug?
Right. Then why don't you just take it?
I keep looking for it. Next time I see it, but not in a gay way.
Yeah.
I just want to be clear about that.
Did you grow up in Russia or Ukraine?
Russia.
In Russia. But your grandmother was in
My
Ukraine?
father is Ukrainian.
Oh, your
my
father is Ukrainian.
grandmother is Ukrainian. So if you just look at the full family tree, it's about half and half is
There's
Russian.
a lot of conflict with you right now.
Internally, yeah.
Yeah.
Let me ask. You've talked about this before, but I'd love to sort of re-explore this. Is Carlos Mencia?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Why?
Why go there again?
Yeah.
This,
I'm willing to do it, but do you like Carlos?
well, first of all, I'm friends with Joe, and I remember being a fan of. I'm outside the world. I remember thinking Carlos was funny. So just as a fan, I was like, oh, funny. And then I remember all this big controversy about him stealing jokes. And because I'm a fan of yours, it's such an interesting human dynamic. And I'm a fan of friendship and loyalty. And you had a great podcast conversation with him. It was tense. It was very tense. But it was interesting. And it kind of makes me think of you talking to your father on that bench.
Yeah, that's essentially what it was.
Some of it wasn't getting through. But maybe, how do you feel about that whole thing about the guy? I mean, he gave you, as a friend, he gave you a lot. You're also a comedian, so stealing jokes is no good. But also there's like I don't know, all the tensions in your heart about all that whole thing. How do you feel about it? Do you forgive him?
Okay, let's go back to it's very Shakespearean in a very weird way, right? Because there's some betrayal there. You know what I mean? There's a lot of drama when it comes to that situation. Again, also, I'm a very loyal guy. Like, I've had the same manager since the late 90s. And I've had every gigantic manager want to sign me. Even though my manager is great, right? She's in a big company, right? And there's only so much you can do. And maybe, you know what I mean, my career would have been different if I would have signed with a bigger management. I don't know, right? But I'll never leave her, you know? I'll never leave my agent, Matt, you know? But people go, well, you're at CAA, that's amazing. The only reason why I'm at CAA is because of Matt Blake, you know? So there are certain loyalties that I have. The Comedy Store, you know, I mean, I generally play the Comedy Store mostly because my loyalties are with them. I don't know if that's a good trait, but it's just the way I am, right?
I admire that.
Okay, so when it comes to Carlos, you know, in the mid 90s is when I met him. And I was a doorman at the La Jolla Comedy Store. He brought me on the road. He introduced me to Matt Blake, my agent, right? And he bought me a car. You know, when I couldn't pay rent, you know, and I was really desperate, I could always go to him for money, you know, and he helped me out in so many different ways, right? So, you know, I really appreciate it. Paulie did the same thing.
What do you need?
So anyway, and then all of a sudden, and I always knew going on the road with him that, number one, I found it odd that he never had a notebook. You know, usually, you know, comics riff with each other and they write things down. You know what I mean? Me, I'll get together with people and write. You know what I mean? I'll do a new joke night because I'm too scared to try it in front of a packed room or whatever it might be. Okay? He never did that, right? And he had hours of material. And, you know, a lot of it was derivative of other people's. He would sometimes hear a bit, change it to Mexican. Like, for instance, you know, Paul Mooney had a joke about black people. He would change it a bit. But premise-wise, it was always extremely too similar. And there were examples on the internet. So, you know, there's things that you can't really deny. And so when that whole thing happened, you know, it was like the Titanic. I mean, I was either going to sink with Carlos or survive. And I did the worst, not the worst thing, I made a difficult decision, and my decision was to cut ties. And, you know, over the years, have felt very guilty about it in some respects. But, you know, there is always in my mind, I want to help him, you know. I want to help him reestablish some sort of a different, you know, route for him to go in terms of his career and whatnot. And so I had him on my podcast, and it didn't go the way I wanted it to go. You know, I mean, I've always believed if he just fully was apologetic and said, you know, I'm sorry for stealing in general, because we don't know specifically. I mean, there's specifics, you know what I mean? And I don't want to argue every case, you know? So I thought the healthiest thing to do was like in a broad way, listen, I stole, I'm so sorry, these are the reasons why, and I'm a different guy now, but it just never happened in that way. And so it's been difficult.
So you don't think he self-reflected, looking in the mirror, about mistakes of the past at all? Like, do you think he's aware?
I think it's ego. You know, I think that he, for one reason or another, he, because there are probably jokes that he legitimately in his heart know that he wrote, that people are accusing of stealing, right? Yeah. But, you know, it's like, we don't know, right? So it's like...
Frickin' Elrune, come on.
Just apologize
Ring?
for
Okay.
all of it, right? But he won't. He
Emulate?
fights
Right?
for every...
Not mad at it,
you know,
not mad at it.
every point. And, you know, I just think that that's not the route. And he...
Woo.
I mean, he's always going to make money. He's, you know, he's never going to be what he should be, which is he's a powerful performer. You know, in terms of laughs, I mean, dude, I wouldn't want to follow him. He's a crusher, you know. So it's like, you know, it's really, he can act. He has all the skill sets. It's just that, to me, he went about it in the wrong way, and it's sad to me. And but I'll always love him, and I've always will thank him for all the help that he's done.
So you still got room in your heart for him?
I have room for my heart for a lot of people, man. You know,
Hitler? All right. What was returning back to Tiger Belly?
Yeah.
Because you said Kalila basically started it. What's the origin story of Tiger Belly?
You know, when I met her,
Oh, by the way, for people listening, in case you somehow don't know what Tiger Belly is, a podcast you do. It's an amazing podcast. You also do Bad Friends with Andrew Santino,
yeah.
so on.
Thank you so much for the plug. Appreciate it.
I don't know. It's context, not the plug. It's
Can I plug
context.
other things though? Since we're doing it?
Sure. Oh,
Yeah.
what's your?
I'm on a show called.
Okay, that's enough of
Okay,
that.
thank you. So what?
What's the name of the show you're on?
I'm on a couple.
A couple shows.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Fine,
good for
I
you.
don't
Netflix.
No,
Okay.
I'm on Sex
Who?
in the City.
Sex in the City.
Yeah. I'm on Reservation Dogs. It's an FX show.
Wait, Sex in the City is not a joke.
No, I am actually on Sex in the City.
Wait, are they rebooting the show?
They did.
Okay.
It's called And Just Like That, Sex in the City.
Oh, and you're on it.
Yeah.
Is this not a joke?
You can Google it. You know what I mean?
Who do you play?
I play a podcaster on it. On the show, Sarah Jessica Parker Perry has a podcast, and I'm her podcast partner.
Oh, got it. Perfect. Beautiful.
But I'm also now my storyline. Anyway, it's fine.
Do you sleep with somebody on there?
I am married on the show. Yeah, they showed I'm married to a young lady on it. Yeah.
It felt like it felt like
Hey, no, because you don't think doing it. I look around going, "Are you sure I'm supposed to be on this?" You know what I mean? I do feel that, but lo and behold, I'm on it. So I started this way. So my friend David Cho, you know him? He's an artist. He used to have a podcast, right? Called DVD ASA, and he used to have me on it. And then Kalila started doing it. And then when DVD ASA ended, Kalila was just like, "Let's start our own," and I was like, "Nah, it's not gonna work." So she goes, "Well, fine, I'm gonna just do it on my own then." So she went and bought the equipment, and we were living in a condo at the time in Hollywood, and she would do them on her own. She did probably 3 on her own. And one day I was watching television, the door was open to the podcast room, and I turned around, and she was literally like this. We had a table like this, she had the mic and all that stuff, and she was doing this. She was like slumped over like this. And so I walked in there and go, "All right, let's just do one." And that's how it started.
And the chemistry was brand new.
Well, I already knew that she could do it because of DVDSA, right? So I already knew that she had the skill set. It's it's just all about, even in this conversation that you and I had today, right? There are gaps of like, "Oh, what should we talk about?" Right?
Yeah.
Right? Or like, I don't know what direction, right? And it's all about the old improv rule, adding information. Even if you don't know what you're gonna say, just fill the dead space with something. Like, so if right now if we had we stopped talking about something like when I asked you, did you grow up in Russia or Ukraine, right? Was one of those dead spaces where I was just like, let's just throw it out there, see where this goes, right? And she has that ability to fill that dead space with information. That's all you need, right? And she gets it in that way. So it's like when we started doing it at DVDSA, I just knew that she had the skill set. So when we started doing it for Tiger Belly, it was a given. She can do it. I've had girlfriends that wouldn't be able to do it. What you have the skill set. You're a sciencey guy. You spend all night long. You know what I mean? And doing whatever you're fucking doing, right? But you have this innate ability to do it, right? And I think it's a talent. Do you think it's a talent? Do you think you have talent? What are you doing? I know what you're doing, not adding information. I know what you're doing. That's a good bit. It's a good bit.
I kept doing it, and you kept filling the space. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, that is true, huh?
Because you're yes-anding yourself, which is great. The improv thing. That was really impressive.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Have you ever had a guest on that didn't add information, and then you had to keep doing it?
Yeah. But it's part of the magic, too. And sometimes I feel like they were actually giving me a gift of silence, and I was stepping on it. Like, for example, I had a conversation with Jocko, Jocko Willink. And every question I would ask him in the beginning, and I'm now better friends with him. But it was the first time we met in that conversation. And I would ask him these long questions of mumble and meander and so on, and he would answer with yes, no, and that's it.
Yeah.
And then, but he'd do it in a strong, like, Viking-like way. And I kept trying to go
Soul
forward,
Rune, okay.
Bobby Lee style of create chaos and just keep talking and so on, as opposed to, I think it was inviting me more for the stoic type of silence, short sentences, that kind of conversation. So I fucked that up, I believe. But yeah, there's not the adding information part, but the adding chemistry part, where it's usually ego, where people don't realize there's a magic to be found between two humans, like genuine. It's like a first date, like that, to truly listen to each other and to do the yes and thing, and have fun with it. When you have this energy, I'm way too important for this conversation. That the information might be there, but the chemistry is not. So you have to remember that a lot of the podcasts I've done are like technical.
Yeah.
And so you could still say a lot of stuff about like what this project, or whether it's physics or robotics or biology. You could say informational stuff, but the excitement, the magic is not there. But I often blame myself, because like if I'm excited, they'll be excited. I've learned this. But I'm learning I'm not allowed to have like a bored face, which my face is naturally looks bored. But on the inside, I'm excited.
Yeah.
So it might be a Russian thing. I don't know.
It's not. Can I tell you why you're not boring? Your face?
Right.
Because you have crow's feet.
Oh, this thing?
Yeah.
Is that what the thing?
Yeah. And the reason why you have crow's feet is you smile a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're very expressive. I know white dudes. I don't trust white dudes.
Yeah.
Right? With no crow's feet. Right? Because that means they're not, you know what I mean, accessing that part of their, you know what I mean, face.
Yeah.
You know?
Which is why I hate when this is an LA thing, especially women have talked to me about like Botox, and they hate they hate not me, on themselves. And they hate because it's all wrinkles and stuff like that. And to me, it's like, no, that's the magic.
It really is. Yeah.
So the interesting thing about Tiger Belly is there's some weird like aesthetic to it. It's really unique. It's not just good, it's also unique. Like in the way that Wes Anderson films are unique, like Flight to Aquatic. I don't know if you know those films.
Yeah, I love those. I mean, they're my favorite films. Yeah.
What is that? What is that? It's not just the chemistry between you and Kalila. It's like, what is that? Can you put a finger on it, or is it just like?
Well, it's essentially who I am. That's what all my houses have looked like that. You know what I mean? Like I've always been a collector of designer toys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I've always been a collector of kind of weird artwork. Yeah, I've always been like that. You know, I like weird wallpaper. Like I'll get, instead of like going to a wallpaper store, what I'll do is I'll get artwork that I like from an artist, like, and go get their approval,
I am overburdened.
and go to a place and make wallpaper
The
out of their
Ward.
artwork. You know what I mean? You can, like, if I wanted a Lex Friedman, your face on my wall, I would ask for your permission, and I would put your
Alright.
face on a gigantic wall. Like, I would do stuff like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but
Can you do that?
Yeah,
You have my permission.
You know, I think I will.
Yeah.
You know, I think I will
I
just
would
for the
love-
laugh.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I would do it.
Big, please.
Yeah. But my point is that yeah, it's essentially who I am on the inside, I guess, in terms of like my, you know, I don't know. But I don't really. I'm glad you said that, because I never even thought about that.
Yeah, you just.
You know, you just kind of do it like this, you know, because all your podcasts have this black, ominous thing.
Yep.
You're wearing a black suit. You have a specific thing too. It's like,
Yeah. But I don't really think people ask me like, why do you wear a suit? I really don't. I just feel good in it.
Yeah.
It's just who I am.
and the reason why my podcast looks the way I do is because I feel comfortable in that environment, and it, you know, like you, I don't try to think too much about what I'm doing on Tiger Belly or even Bad Friends, right? Because when you start thinking about it, go, we should do this segment and I should, do it this way or this podcast does it this way. So what, no, I just show up, I keep my mind open, and I do the best I can. I add information like we talked about, and I just keep talking, right? And I try to be authentically myself. Like right now, I had this fear when I was I shit in the fucking bathroom, man.
Yeah.
Because I was so scared.
Out of fear.
Out of fear. Yeah. And like, I was like kind of nervous because this whole week I was anticipating coming here. And I watched the Mark Norman one. I watched the Giannis one to see, how tonally. And last night my girlfriend just looked at me and just goes, just show up.
Yeah. All I know is who I am.
Dude, you think that...
Thanks.
First of all, let me ask you something. You think I have the day... You know how busy I am? To drive all the way over here to West Hollywood to do your fucking thing? Why would I do that?
Yeah.
Because we are well aware of who you are. And we like you. God, and we want you on ours.
I would love that. I would love that. I mean, that's the reason I'm doing this is just to get on your podcast.
You gotta get on it.
Awesome. Yeah, it's funny because I just mentioned to you offline. I got a chance to talk to Oliver Stone, and he asked me this thing, which is, how many listeners does this thing get, all that kind of stuff. And I don't even pay attention to that. So it's like I just don't.
A little bit though, you do? Don't?
I wrote extensions on my browser so I don't see the views, the number of views.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't pay
Did you
attention.
know that like some of your YouTube videos on interviews and stuff have over 1 million?
That I know. I know like loosely that like it bleeds through, but it's not part of my conscious thing I think about. I've just seen it destroy people's minds where they're no longer thinking creatively. They don't feel good if something they do doesn't get as much attention as they thought it should. It just can destroy you, even though it's good. There could be great stuff you create that everybody ignores, but it was still great. It is still great, and sort of letting that negatively affect your mind is I don't know. I've seen it destroy people, so I'm very nervous about that.
It's like that old saying, never live in the results. It's like if I podcast to make, I'd like initially, honestly, when I did Tiger Belly, we made no money for the first couple of years.
Wow.
Like not enough to put a dent. I couldn't buy anything like nice or anything. It was side money. You know what I mean? I could buy some shoes once a month. Or
Almost.
right? And like I said before, my career was in the shitter, right? So Tiger Belly wasn't like, this is gonna be the thing. You know what I mean? It was just something to do with my girlfriend creatively, and it just so happens that it did do all these things for me, right? Podcasting, but yeah, I never, and still today, I don't do it for any of those things. I do it because it's fun.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is, right?
Yeah.
Let me ask you, since you say why you love Delilah, why do you love / hate George Kimmel, your producer? What's your favorite thing about him? Let's say that. Positive thing. Positive.
Because it's like, I don't want to give him compliments, but I'll try.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll try.
Have you actually? I don't think you've publicly ever said anything positive about George.
I don't think I have either. So I'm gonna give it a go. I'm gonna give it a real go here.
Okay, yeah.
At the end of the day, when it comes to money, when it comes to responsibility, obviously this is a business now for you and me. It is. It's a side business, but it's a business, and you want to be able to trust the people that are running it. And I have 100% trust in everything that he does in terms of financial things, in terms of technical things, in terms of all of it. You know what I mean? Merchandise, and I have 100% belief in him. And that's rare, to find someone like that. Also, at the end of the day, I know his heart, and he really is a great guy. There's nothing about him. Like, for instance, he was over the other day, and I go, I bought this key wooden thing that some native man made, and I don't know how to put it on the wall. So I just, I go, hey, can you figure this out? And he goes, yeah, I got it. You know what I mean? Like, he's just that guy. He's also, but there is a part of me, and this is probably wrong, but there's a part of me that feels like I kind of made him.
Yeah, he would be nothing without you.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Like,
I didn't fucking say
that's
that.
the way I heard it.
That's what I meant.
Okay. But that's not what you
No,
said.
and it's probably wrong, right? Because he did all the things that he has in his life, he did on his own, right? But still, for some reason...
He'd be nothing without you.
That's what I'm saying, but that's what I mean.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So, basically, like, because when I met him, I was a part of this YouTube studio called Maker Studios, and he was just a producer there, and that's how I met him. And when he left Maker, he came to us, and he wasn't a podcast producer, and now he has this big company. He produces a bunch of podcasts, and he has a bunch of employees, and he has a nice business, and I feel like I had a lot to do with it.
So both the confidence and the good heart.
Yeah.
What about Gilbert?
Yeah, Gilbert is a godsend as well. I don't know if you, because of science, let me ask you this, because you're a science guy, this is an interesting question for me. Do you believe just the universe gives you certain things at the right moment, at the right time? Do you believe that there is a mechanism out there where we're just a part of this machine that's kind of like almost as if things are just happening the way it's supposed to happen? Or do you think there's these random things that are occurring?
Garbage?
And it's chaos in that way.
I don't know from a science perspective, because I wouldn't be able to explain it, but I do believe you mentioned karma. There's a karma thing. It just, if you put love out there in the world, like certain doors open in a certain kind of way. Like they're almost waiting for you, and then you walk through them. So yes, in that way, I believe. It just feels like not everything is like a basic like billiard ball model of like you have to fight for everything. You could just generally be cool to people and kind to people, and certain opportunities just pop up at the right moment.
More specifically, though, so for instance, let's suppose, like Gilbert, for instance, he just showed up at my house one day. I didn't know who he was. I had a fight night, and a friend brought him. Right, this is right when Kalila and I were starting Tiger Belly, right? And in conversation, he was like, we didn't know how to do engineer. We didn't have an engineer for our podcast. And that night, he was like, I know how to do it, right? And if I hadn't met him that night, he just wouldn't. I don't know if it would be as good. It would be completely different. And I really believe that we met him that night for a reason, So you don't believe that?
It's complicated. I believe that for love and these kinds of things, but I don't believe that as much for building a team. But that's the engineering thing. I think that's the artist in you. I'm less of an artist. I think artists thrive in the chaos of it. So it's not only that you guys met at that time, is you didn't probably ask in detail about his qualifications, or didn't go through a rigorous thing. You just dove in and figured out on the fly. I think that's sort of the artist ethic. I think if you're doing a startup or engineering, there's a little bit more rigor in the selection process.
I see what you're saying.
Because the same with Rogan, Jamie just walked up to him. Jamie Vernon. Yeah. He just walked up in the same kind of situation, and then he made it. Both of you have one of the best podcasts in the world, and so it's like, how did that? What?
Yeah, I believe that
it's very strange.
Yeah, it's strange.
Or maybe it's just like cool people hang out with cool people, so you kind of collide.
But that's not true because that's not true because with Bad Friends, for instance, right? I've had 12 people before Andrew Santino that had asked me to do one with me, right? And they just didn't want to do it, With Andrew though, it happened kind of organically and in a way that was almost like in my heart meant to happen. in a weird way.
That's a weird combination, right? So why was that the sticky one? Because you have a lot of comedian friends. Why Andrew?
Because number one, we both know, just instinctually, without even talking about it, that in many ways we're polar opposites in terms of like energy, right? He's more aggressive. I also know I respond good with alpha males. You know what I mean? Because I'm more of a follower, you know what I mean? Or sensitive in that way. But in many ways, I am an alpha male in certain areas of my life, you know?
Yeah.
You know, when it comes to smashing, Doc, what's up? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But,
Thanks.
you know, so we both knew instinctually that in that way our chemistry worked, right? And also, in terms of style and all that stuff, is completely just, it was just an organic given to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you trust yourself with power? Play dictators.
What do you mean? Do I?
Like, because I feel like you would be, because you said you're not an alpha male, but in many ways, when you smash what's up and you wink at me, would you, what do you think about that? If I gave you absolute power, would you be able to, what would you, how would you change it?
What does absolute power mean? Like you said to me, listen, you're going to be the dictator of planet Earth, and anything that you want is at your means.
Yeah, including violence, sex.
No, I would not. Because even in my personal life now, there are things that I could do, right? That I have power, I guess, that I don't participate in, right? So why would I do it if I had ultimate power? I mean, because there's still a moral and ethics that I have, right? That I don't feel comfortable with, right? So
You wouldn't even enjoy it.
no, I mean, I think that there would be no, if I had ultimate dictatorship on planet Earth, there would be no violence. I mean, I would not cause any wars, right? But if there's an uprising,
Yeah.
I'd have to quell it.
That's how it starts, Robbie. You quell it with
Don't
bit of
uprise.
Right, but so first you're gonna
Okay,
censor
Pretty
everybody
glacial
who wants
spike,
to
15 to
even
cold.
suggest the idea of uprising, and then one person gets out of line, they run a red light. Okay, that's.
But
You ever get angry in traffic?
Yeah. I get rageful.
So if you could murder that person,
No.
no,
No.
nobody has to know.
No. I would give them answer. But I would not
so
murder
much
them. I would not.
Okay.
No, but no, but here, no. This is an interesting thing because I want to elaborate. All right, so the thing, if I was the dictator of the planet Earth, right, there would be a reason why people would uprise, right? So give me a reason, because I would give them food, shelter, right, and all the things I feel like that people would desire, right? But you're right. But you're right because you're right. I think this is what you're talking about. So here's the deal. So there are certain things that I do believe in, right? Like, for instance, it's a very controversial thing, right? In terms of a woman's right? In terms of abortion, right? I feel like as a male, it's not my body, so I don't really even have an opinion, and I shouldn't even have a voice on it because, you know what I mean? A woman, like, it's like if they created laws, if white people, men, created laws for Koreans in America. Like, you don't have the right to. Right, so it's like, so if I was a dictator, right, I would just be like, yeah, women have all the rights in the world, right, and they, you know, and I think abortion should be legal throughout the planet Earth, right, but there will be people out there that will believe that no, you know what I mean?
Can't carry anymore.
You know, we're pro-life.
So you would put them in jail just
So that's right. So I think
so-
as a dictator, there was no way to be able to please everyone. So there will be an uprising.
Yeah.
So yeah, fuck it. I don't want to do it.
Okay.
Would you do it?
I can't
not
carry anymore.
no. There's several loaded questions. Would I enjoy it? No. Would I do it? No, because I don't trust my own mind under power. Like, I'm well aware that in situations where I have control.
Couple more runs and I'll. I know I haven't really
as
said
much
anything.
Freedom as
Sorry.
it is a burden. Like, it can change you. I'm very nervous about that. Like,
Interesting.
Like how much the ego starts to flare up, how much just like the less pleasant things about your nature come up. You know, I have a temper too, like I have all that kind of stuff. And you have sure you have a bit of a temper.
Yeah, I have a temper, yeah.
And so whenever nobody is able to as clearly call you out on your bullshit, that could be a problem.
Do you have this when you rage out and you have a temper? Is there like either a day later or a couple hours later, is there shame and regret that comes along with that or not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
During it.
Yeah, during it too. Yeah, shame and regret. Yeah.
And then, but I try to make sure it's like love and respect are felt always underneath the whole thing. But still, it's like human emotion. You can't control it. And if you're given absolute power, you start to lose your sense of the world. You start to be unable to see what is right and wrong. You think everything is right. Start to be have a distorted view of who's doing the wrong things in the world, and then also distrust. Well, that has to do more with how absolute power is usually attained, because when you're in the seat of power, everybody, first on the outside, but then in your inner circle, you start to distrust them. You start to believe that they want your power. So the people you love, the people that were the source of so much beauty for you previously, like even like your girlfriend, wife, your closest lifelong friends, you start to suspect them.
I don't want to live like that.
Yeah. And you're often right to suspect them. So
because you think they change a little bit too.
They change too.
Yeah.
They start a little bit taste of that power.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is a bunch of people in Hitler's inner circle at the very end betrayed him too, in search of their own power.
Wow.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
It's fascinating, this power thing. Let me ask you a bunch of ridiculous questions real quick. Okay. If you can be someone else for a day, someone alive today who you haven't yet met, who would you be? For one day, you get to be, could be female, male, they have to be alive.
I always wanted to see what a pop star was like.
Which one would you go?
Like Harry Styles.
Okay.
Yeah. So if I'm Harry Styles, right, I just want to see like what it's like to go to the Beverly Center
Okay.
as
So-
Harry Styles.
As Harry Styles.
Yeah. Or Coachella, just walk around Coachella as Harry Styles. You know what I mean?
So you get a lot of attention, and it's a very specific kind of attention.
Yeah, I just want to see what that's like. I want to be able to, because the thing is that I want to be able to like see what it's like in terms of how easy it would be to get a hot chick.
Oh, I thought you meant to, like, get a table at a restaurant.
No. That I can still do now as Bobby Lee, you know. But as Harry Styles, or I want to see what it'd be like and how that would go about, like how easy it would be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give me something good.
Could you just walk up to the
Come
hottest chick
on.
at Coachella and start making out with them?
Yeah, that's interesting. Just to see.
Just to
te-
see if you
test the
could.
system.
Yeah. Because I know as Bobby Lee, no. Could you? No, you couldn't do that.
No. It's an interesting reason.
Yeah.
So, if you were the last person on Earth, like, everybody disappeared, everybody's dead, what would your day look like? What would your days look like? What would you do?
That's interesting because if I was able to figure out the, electricity, I think my days would be like, why didn't you learn about electricity?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
You realize how little you know
Yeah.
about
Why didn't you learn about these things? Because now you're gonna die. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I can't
But I
carry
think the
anymore.
first thing obviously is, now let me ask you something. Why? Now, if you're saying that I'm the last person on planet Earth because there was an alien invasion and there's predators and things that I have to fucking look out for, that's one way. But if I'm just all of a sudden I wake up and just everyone's gone, and there's
everyone's
no,
dead.
everyone's
Apocalypse.
dead,
But there's no threat.
there's no threat, then what I would do is I go, well, let's find a place to live. Not probably my house, right? So I'd probably live in a place where that's closest to grocery stores, right? So I would get food and stuff first, right? And then secondly, it's like, I'll probably go, you know what I thought about? I would probably go to San Marcos, San Diego Vista, because that's where the real doll factory is.
And just fuck all of them?
No. I would have to
Oh.
grab like 6 of them because I'm going to get lonely.
6 of them for a variety. You wouldn't be monogamous with one doll.
No, and I also would carry out like the
And
vagina parts, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And all the accessories and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then go back to LA probably. Okay, well, I stay down there.
Yeah, you could stay in the factory.
No, yeah, maybe it's that factory, and then but I think thirdly, I would run out of electricity, right? And I think my demise would come.
Well, you could find sources of electricity because nobody's using it.
But I don't know how to turn the machines on. Like I don't know how to go to the fucking what do you call it? The place where I don't even know what it's called. The place where you know what I mean, where it all.
The energy is generated.
Yeah, the generators. Like,
Yeah.
where do I go?
Yeah. Good question.
Okay.
All right.
And the density is
Would you rather
insane in
lose
here.
all your old memories or never be able to make new? The past.
No, I mean I can't lose my memory. All of them. That makes me who I am.
You wouldn't be able to make new. You wouldn't be. You'd be living in the moment nonstop with all the. But you did say you're in a really good place. So maybe this is a pretty good set of memories you got. You got all the trauma.
Yeah. I mean, that's a nightmare. You just created a nightmare. That's a nightmare.
The choice.
The choice is a nightmare. Yeah, you're fucked either way.
It's already beautiful. It's a kind of death. Not being able to make new memories. That's it. That's all you got.
Yeah.
You get to relive the memories you have.
As a science guy, let me ask you a question. Sure. Are you afraid to die?
Yeah, of course. I'm not. Of course, I am. I think about it every day.
Yeah.
I meditate on my mortality all the time.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense. It's terrifying.
Terrifying. And are you terrified because of the unknown, or because you believe it's nothingness?
The unknown, but my best guess is that it's something like nothingness, and that nothingness is
So terrifying.
the infinity of the nothingness.
Yeah. But Ram Dass says, and this is something that I always, you know Ram Dass? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ram Dass says he believes that death is like removing a tight shoe. Like release.
Yeah.
Like, that could be it too. I think maybe when we die, that's initially maybe the last feeling that we have is release. And then if that happens and there's nothing
okay.
I think that's cool.
Well, no, that has to do more with the actual feeling of death, which I think some people are afraid of. The experience to make sure it's one of release, like you said.
Yeah.
But the existential aspect that you no longer exist, like all the shit you're doing, kind of assumes you'll live forever. Like you don't really like all your career and all that kind of stuff. You, Bobby Lee, will be forgotten,
I know.
like completely erased.
Yeah.
So all you have is a few moments in this life, a few moments of joy, a few moments of trauma, of suffering, and that's it.
I know. But here's the
And you're wasting your time today talking to me, and then you have a few such moments. You'll
No,
do a
no.
couple hundred more podcasts, and then you'll be dead.
No, because this right here,
Yeah.
dude, right, is human. Number one, I walked through a little fear today, so I learned something, right? I'm talking to a science guy, which I never thought I could. You're the first scientist I've ever talked to, right?
You get a diploma at the end of it.
Oh, good. And I believe that there was connection, right?
Not in a gay way.
Not in a gateway, non-gay connection,
Yeah.
right? In certain circumstances, I probably would blow you.
Would you?
In a certain circumstances, like if we were the last two people on planet Earth and stuff like that.
Sure.
Yeah. But yeah, those are probably the only ones. But or like somebody put a gun to my head. You gotta blow Lex.
Okay.
Yeah. Then I'm
kind of a
like,
turn
all right.
on.
Yeah.
Turn on. If I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Let me ask you
yeah,
one question.
Go ahead.
What do you think is the meaning of life?
That's the last one.
Yes, that's the last one.
Yeah.
What do you think? Why are we here? Why are you here? Why are we here? Does any of it make sense to you?
I think ultimately, here's why I like life in general, is what we talked about. Like we view death, there is a mystery there. There's a wonderment.
Oh,
right?
shit.
So it's like, when I walk
Bobby.
outside, and I look at the trees, and I look at buildings, that man made these buildings, and, I look at the universe, and I look in the sky, and I don't really completely comprehend what's going on, right? It's just so I'm in awe of all of it, right? And I don't have any answers, right? But that, I think, is what the meaning of life is to be in awe of it, and the wonder of it all, and it's just amazing.
Yeah, just open your eyes to the wonder of it all
Yeah.
while we're still here.
Yeah.
Bobby, it's a huge honor to finally meet you. I've been a fan for many, many years. It's an honor that you would even consider blowing me in the correct kind of circumstances.
I think you would blow me in the right circumstances.
I think that's the definition of love. Bobby, thanks so much for
Thanks,
talking,
buddy.
brother.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to this conversation with Bobby Lee. To support this podcast, please check out our sponsors in the description. And now, let me leave you with some words from Kurt Vonnegut. Laughter and tears are both responses to frustration and exhaustion. I myself prefer to laugh, since there's less cleaning to do afterward. Thank you for listening, and hope to see you next time. If you could talk to Vladimir Putin once again, now, what kind of things would you talk about here? What kind of questions would you ask?
Oh my god, fucking
Following
stupid
this
thing.
conversation with Oliver Stone. He's one of the greatest filmmakers of all time, with 3 Oscar wins and 11 Oscar nominations. His films tell stories of war and power, fearlessly and often controversially, shining light on the dark parts of American and global history. His films include Platoon, Wall Street, Born on the 4th of July, Scarface, JFK, Nixon, Alexander, W, Snowden, and documentaries where he has interviewed some of the most powerful and consequential people in the world, including Fidel Castro, Hugo Chavez, and Vladimir Putin. And in this conversation, Oliver and I mostly focus our discussion on Vladimir Putin, Russia, and the war in Ukraine. When I go over these conversations is to understand the human being before me, to understand not just what they think, but how they think, to steelman their ideas, and to steelman the devil's advocate.
Alright, one more run and then
All
I'm
in service
gonna
of understanding,
hop off.
not
Please take a
division.
break.
I have done this poorly in the past. I'm still struggling with this, but I'm working hard to do better. I believe the moment we draw lines between good people and evil people, we'll lose our ability to see that we're all one people in the most fundamental of ways, and lose track of the deep truth expressed by the old Solzhenitsyn line that I return to time and time again. That the line between good and evil runs to the heart of every man. Oliver Stone has a perspective that he extensively documents in his powerful, controversial series, The Untold History of the United States. That imperialism and the military-industrial complex paved the path to absolute power, and thus corrupt the minds of the leaders and institutions that wield it. From this perspective, the way out of the humanitarian crisis and human suffering in Ukraine, and the way out from the pull of the beating drums of nuclear war is not simple to understand, but we must, because all of humanity hangs in the balance. I will talk to many people who seek to understand the way out of this growing catastrophe, including to historians, to leaders, and perhaps most importantly, to people on the ground in Ukraine and Russia. Not just about war and suffering, but about life, friendship, family, love, and hope. This is the Lex Friedman Podcast. To support it, please check out our sponsors in the description. And now, dear friends, here's Oliver Stone. You're working on a documentary now about nuclear energy.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to talk about this. Energy is such a big part of the world, about geopolitics of the world, about the way the world is. What do you think is the role of nuclear energy in the 21st century?
Good question. First of all, obviously everyone's talking about climate change, right? So here I wake up to that 2 years ago, and clearly we're concerned. I picked up a book by Josh Goldstein and his co-author, who's Swedish. Those two wrote a book called Bright Future. A Bright Future came out a few years ago, and I lapped it up. It was a book fact-based, clear, not too long, and not too technical, and it was very clear that they were in favor of all kinds of renewables, renewable energy, yes. They hated, made it very clear how dangerous oil and gas were, methane, and made it very clear to the layman like me, and at the same time said that this renewables can work so far, but the gap is enormous as to how much electricity the world is going to need in 2050 and beyond. 2, 3, 4 times we don't even know the damage, but we have India, we have China, we have Africa, we have Asia coming onto the scene wanting more and more electricity. So they address the problem as a global one, not just as often in the United States you get the ethnocentric United States point of view that we know we're doing well, blah, blah, blah. We're not doing well, but we sell that to people that we're comfortable. We spend more energy than anybody in this country per capita than anybody.
Let's see how close I can get to
At
level
the same time,
Greetings.
we don't seem to
And I'm outta
understand
here.
the global picture. So that's what they did, and they made me very aware. So the only way to close that gap, the only way in their mind, is nuclear energy. And talking about a gap of building a huge amount of reactors over the next 30 years, and starting now. They make that point over and over again. So obviously this country, the United States, is not going to go in that direction because it just is incapable of having that kind of will, political will. And fear is a huge factor. And still a lot of shibboleths, a lot of myths about nuclear energy have confused and confounded the landscape. The environmentalists have played a huge role in doing good things, many good things, but also confusing and confounding the landscape and making accusations against nuclear energy that were exaggerated. So taking all these things into consideration, we set about making this documentary, which is about finished now, almost finishing. It's an hour and 40 minutes, and that was a hard part, getting it down about 3.5 hours to this something more manageable.
Is it interviews?
It's interviews among others, but essentially we went to Russia, we went to France, which is the most perhaps advanced nuclear country in the world, Russia, and the United States. We went to the Idaho laboratory and talked to the scientists there, as well as Department of Energy people that are handling this. Idaho is one of the experimental labs in the United States. It's probably the most advanced. And they're doing a lot of advanced nuclear there. We also we studied, well, Russia gave us a lot of insight. We're very cooperative because they have some of the most advanced nuclear, actually the most advanced nuclear reactor in the world, at Belarus.
Of course, 100 freaking cold immunes.
We did an investigation there. And in France, they have some very advanced nuclear reactors, and they're building. Now they're building again. They had the Green Party came into power, and just not into power, but became a factor in France. And there was a motion when Hollande was president. They started to move away from it. Actually, they were beginning to just abandon it. And they let not complete. In other words, close down some of the nuclear reactors. There was talk of that. Thank God France did not do that, and Macron came in and recently reversed it, and they're building as fast as they can now, especially with the Ukraine war going on. There's an awareness that Russia will not be providing the energy Europe needs. So, and then China is the other one. So that's the other factor. I'm talking about the big boys. They have doing tremendous work and fast, which is very hopeful. But of course, China is building in all directions at once. And coal continues to be huge in China, and methane too. But basically, coal in India, in China, are the biggest users of coal. And we know, as you know, Germany went back to coal 2 years ago. So all these factors, it's a fascinating picture globally. So we try to achieve a consensus that where nuclear can work, and where it will be working, and it will be used more and more. The question is how much carbon dioxide China and Russia will be putting out. France is the only one that's not putting it out. The United States has not changed. With all the talk and all the nonsense about renewables and the new lifestyle and all this, it's great for your guilt complex, but it doesn't do anything for the total accumulation of carbon dioxide in the world.
Who's going to lead the way on nuclear, do you think? You mentioned Russia, France, China, United States. who's going to
Yeah,
lead.
I don't think it's going to be a United Nations kind of thing because the world doesn't seem capable of uniting. We go to these conferences, Kyoto, and we talk and we agree, but then we don't actually enforce. So I don't think it can happen that way. I think it's going to be an individual race with countries. They're going to just do it for their own self-interest, like China is doing. China, the thing is, if it works, and I'm praying that it will really work on a big scale, China will back away from coal naturally. The same thing will be true of India. They will see the benefits, because if you go to India, you see the cities, the pollution, you walk around in that stuff, and you get, there's no hope in this, and you sense it. So people will move in this direction naturally because nuclear is clean energy. And the amount of casualties of nuclear is the lowest on the industrial scale for energy producing. From coal down to oil, everything, the lowest casualty rate, very lowest, 0.002 or something, is nuclear. So not that many people have died from nuclear. Not that many. I think 50 people at Chernobyl, which was the worst accident. Nobody died. Nobody died at 3 Mile Island, and that's what you hear all over and over again. These accidents. The environmentalists have sold us the argument that they're dangerous.
Think that Bale will level me up, guys?
A lot of environmentalists, thank God, of changing it.
Here,
They've
Biddy?
come off that routine and they've said, we were wrong. We've done a lot of good work. Greenpeace did a lot of good work. Whales, saving this, saving that. But they admit themselves, not they don't, but people who have been in the organization have said we were wrong. In 1956, we show the article in the New York Times that came out, the Rockefeller Foundation, which of course is a big producer of oil, the Rockefeller family, and the foundation came out
Nice.
with a study which was
Hey,
weighted.
Angel. Hello.
They tipped the scale.
What's up?
Put a thumb on the scale. It was a scientific expose of radiation in the study that came out printed in the New York Times, because the New York Times publisher Sulzberger was on their board. He was one of the board members. So they got a lot of strong publicity condemning radiation which started the process of doubting nuclear energy. The radiation levels that they pointed out were very minor. And of course, if you go into a scientific analysis of this now with what we know, it's just not true. But it tilted the scale back in the 50s, 60s, and started the questioning the nuclear business.
Do you think that was malevolence or incompetence?
No, I think it was competition. I don't think it was conspiracy as much as it was a sense that we don't want this. Nuclear energy is going to end the dominance of oil. Absolutely. And it will. Yeah. And it will anyway, because it's the only sane way for the world to proceed. But the world will have to learn through adversity. So in other words, this situation could get worse, much worse. And certain countries are just going to have to adapt, like we always do. When things become too hard, you have to change your thinking.
And humans are pretty good at that.
Yes, talking about human nature, they're very adept at that. Germany, for example, I mean, when the Fukushima happened, they went out of the nuclear business. That was shocking to me.
Good afternoon.
They just pulled out and they destroyed.
Just got D2.
Several
Nice.
of their nuclear reactors.
What kind of character are you making?
And put up.
Have you played Diablo before?
Yeah, put up coal and oil, replaced it. And as a result, Germany drifted into this place next to France. Their electricity bills went up, and France stayed the same.
Try to progress. I just killed Andy.
They have a different system in
Sorc?
Europe, but more or less, no question that France was doing a lot better.
Are you on the North American servers?
And now, with this Ukraine issue, it's a very interesting fulcrum point whether Germany,
Are you in EU or
what
something?
direction they're going to go now. How can they keep going with coal? They just can't.
What's the connection between oil,
Yep.
coal, nuclear, and
What's your game name?
Sort of energy?
Or make a game that can be joined with a password.
Do you see, when you look at the 21st century,
Ladder?
when you were doing
Well, yeah,
this
of course.
documentary,
Well,
are you
everybody's
thinking
here.
of nuclear as a way to power the world, but is it also to avoid conflict over resources? Is there some aspect to energy being a source of conflict that we're trying to avoid?
Don't have the energy, the history of energy at my fingertips. It's a very long history here, but I would say apparently not. It does seem that if individually each country can answer its needs by building, and up until now we haven't had conflict except in this issue of Russia supply.
Nice.
Can't carry anymore.
It's a great find
Obviously the
for you.
pipeline, Nord Stream 2 has been closed, and Nord Stream 1 is also probably going to be
What does
phased
that
out.
have?
And the concept of
you
Russia
suck it?
supplying gas to Europe is now up in the air.
Crash.
And who knows what's going to happen. I just don't see how Europe can get away from using Russian gas. But Russian
course
gas
it's
is
not
not the
typing.
solution because it's methane too, and it goes up into the atmosphere. Methane is in a short term is worse than coal. Worse. There's all kinds of charts we show in the film. We try not to be too over-factual, but methane is not the answer. It's a short-term answer. Will countries go to war over energy is a question that I'm trying to think of all the wars that happened. You could say Germany, of course, during World War II needed oil very badly, and it dictated their strategy with Romania, etc., and getting the oil fields open. But I haven't thought that one through. I'd have to make a documentary on it to really understand how energy and war interface.
It's always part of the calculation, but it's a question of how much.
Yeah.
Right, that's the question. You've, I just have to ask, because you mentioned your mom was from
Yeah,
France.
yeah, this is all for you.
Traveled for this documentary, and you traveled in general throughout the world, in Russia, Ukraine. What are the defining characteristics of these cultures? Let's go with Russia. So as I told you, I'm half Ukrainian, half Russian. I came from that part of the world. What are some interesting, beautiful aspects of the culture of Russia and Ukraine?
I can't really speak honestly of Ukraine. I was there only in 1983 when I visited the Soviet Union under the communism. And you
can use the
Kiev
boots.
was beautiful. It was one of the nicer places I went. But they were very much stultified by the communist system. They all were. The best places to visit in Russia were always in the south, whether Georgia or the Muslim countries. There was always a better culture in terms of comfort. Mm-hmm. But communism was rough, and that was the end of it, pretty much. Brezhnev regime, and then Andropov. Gorbachev was 3 years in the future when I was there. So I can't talk about Ukraine, and they're not been friendly to me since I.
That should get you going.
Interviews, Ukraine has banned.
Oh, you're welcome, man.
They've been very tough on
People have helped me a lot, so
critical. I think the
trying
Russian
to pass
people,
it
which
on.
is very special to me. I perhaps because of my European upbringing, but I enjoy talking to them. I find them very open, very generous, and they appreciate support. They appreciate people who say, I
Nothing
understand
else would really
why
help,
your
yeah.
government is doing this or this or this. I've tried to stay open-minded and listen to both sides. The thing that I
no
have
problem.
seen as an American is, of course, this
level up a little
American
bit, and you'll be able to
enmity
use
towards
that
Russia
stuff.
from the very beginning. I grew up in 1940.
You have a cube yet?
1946. I was born.
No, I'm
in the
not gonna waste
50s,
my
it
time
was-
finding you a freaking cube.
It was so anti-Russian.
Here.
They were everywhere. They were in our schools.
Take
they were
that
in
cube.
our State Department. They were spying on us. They were stealing the country from us. That was the way the American right wing, not even the right wing, I'd say the Republican Party, pictured the Russians. They were actively engaged in infiltrating America and changing our thinking. And television shows were based on this. It was very much the J. Edgar Hoover mentality that communism was even behind the student protests of the 1960s. That this was the direction in which the FBI and the CIA were thinking. So I grew up with a prejudice.
Oh yeah, MAGA
And
layer.
It took me many years.
Number
My father
one
was
is
a
up.
Republican, and he was a stockbroker, and he was a very intelligent man. But even he,
Down
because he
and
was a
up.
World War II soldier, he was a colonel, had fallen under the influence.
No, I thought usually
in
it's
order to
down.
be successful in American business in the 1950s, you had to have a very strong
Resurrected?
anti-Soviet. Very strong.
I mean, I don't know.
If you expressed any kind of
I played it when it came out for a while.
activity of that nature, you'd be cast aside as a
Then I saw a
person,
letter
as
came
somebody
out and
who
I
was
started a couple of days ago.
not completely on the board with the American way of doing business. Capitalism works, communism doesn't.
And in particular, communism is embodied by the Soviet Union, is the enemy. So hence,
Yeah, that's the way you were.
the narrative behind the Cold War.
That's correct. And it basically lasted. I mean, you saw the ups and downs of it. When Reagan came in, first of all, we had the crisis of 1962 with the Cuban Missile Crisis, and Kennedy proved himself to be a warrior for peace. He resolved that with Khrushchev. That was a big moment, huge moment, and people don't give him credit enough for really saving us from a war that could have affected all of mankind.
But it still didn't avert.
No, because the moment he was killed, honestly...
Make sure you talk to Drogman.
We can talk about that. As you know, I've made a film, JFK Revisited is a documentary we released this year. The movie I made in 1991. But the moment he was killed, I would argue that Lyndon Johnson went back immediately to the old way of thinking, the old way of doing business, which was the Eisenhower Truman way, which we had adapted since World War II. That was an interim. You have to think about it. From Roosevelt dies in '45. Roosevelt has an interim of 15 years where he has more of a democratic regime, more liberal. He recognizes the Soviet Union for the first time since the revolution, and he actually has a relationship with them. He sends ambassadors who are friendly. He has a relationship with Stalin, etc. And at Yalta, and at Tehran. Now that's where he had the relationship.
Do you think if JFK
Portals up?
lived, we would not have a Cold War?
No, absolutely no. And we go into great depth on that in the film, and I'd urge you to see it because it goes into all the issues around the world. Kennedy was being very much an anti-imperialist, it turns out, and many people don't understand that.
Come here. No.
You
No,
have
where
to
you
look
going?
at all
Other
his
way.
policies in Middle East with Nasser. You had a relationship with Sukarno in Indonesia. With Latin America, he made a big effort
Is
with the
it-
Alliance for Progress. And when Africa, above all, with Lumumba, he was very shocked at his
What's the
death.
symbol?
And
Is it the crest?
to defend the right,
That's the
the
crest.
integrity of the Belgian Congo with Dag Hammarskjöld of the UN. He made a big effort. Unfortunately, it didn't work out because Dag Hammarskjöld
Yeah.
was killed and
Gotcha.
then Kennedy was killed. And Congo
If you haven't
descended
followed,
into
be sure to
chaos
follow.
because of Mobutu's
Also,
dictatorship.
I would appreciate it.
But Kennedy was very active.
Not that I'm doing this for the follow,
As
to
an
be clear.
Irishman, not
I
as an
just,
Englishman.
I like
As an
helping
Irishman.
people.
And I say that because, well, we'll come back to that because Mr. Joe Biden is an Irishman, but it's a different kind of an Irishman. They're both Catholic Irish, but Kennedy really made an effort
Thank you, sir. Or ma'am.
to change the imperialist mindset that he still was very strong in America and Europe. Lyndon Johnson changed back to the old policy, and we were never able to really keep détente going with the Russians. Briefly had it with Carter, but then Brzezinski came in.
Portals
Brzezinski was
up.
his national security advisor. He was put there by Rockefeller, and Brzezinski was a Pole. He got revenge from the Poland. Poland has always been attacking Russia as far as
Yeah. You always got to talk to
last
somebody in there.
century. I mean, the two world wars that occupied Russia, and so tragically, the entry points were always through Poland and Ukraine. So Brzezinski got his revenge, and Carter ended up being an enemy of the Soviet Union and creating, as Brzezinski took pride in it, he created the atmosphere, the trap for the Soviets to go into Afghanistan in '79. That trap was set, he said, in 1978. So there was never, except for brief moments, periods of détente with the Soviets. And I grew up under that. I didn't really know anything of this going on because I was learning. I was educating myself as I was learning movies and trying to be a dramatist and this and that. So I wasn't thinking about this. Then when Reagan came in, I was worried again. because it was the beat of the old beat, which was there, the most evil empire. I mean, it goes on in American history. It doesn't end. Reagan got a lot of points for that, and of course, when Gorbachev came in, it was a beautiful moment for the world. It was a great surprise. It was probably the best years for America, at least from my point of view, in terms of this
You don't just do
relaxation
Trav in Act 3, by the way.
1986
We have to get
to
every piece and
1991
make the staff.
were great years in terms
Get to
of
Mephisto.
ability to believe once again that there could be a peace dividend. But the world changed again in 1991, 92. There's an internal mechanism. Who knows? You could blame the United States. You could blame Russia for.
Yeah, it changed.
Gorbachev was perhaps not the right man to try to administer that country at that point. He had great visions. He was a man of peace. But it was very difficult to hold together such a huge empire.
So vision is not enough to hold together the Soviet Union.
Portal's up in Act 3.
The details are
Let me know when you've got the eye.
on that a little bit because
So
I
I
was
can make a new
recently
portal.
in countries like Kazakhstan, talked about the negotiations that were going on and the breakup of the Soviet Union. It's a very interesting story because it involves everything. Ukraine, of course, everything that's going on now. 30 million Russians were left outside of the Soviet Union when it collapsed. They had no
The flare
home
drum.
anymore. They were homes in other countries, such as in Ukraine. So it's an interesting story and with repercussions today. Kazakhstan is a good example of keeping a balance, keeping it neutral. Yeah. He played both sides, and because Yeltsin wanted him to join the Russian Confederation in a certain way where he'd be supporting against Gorbachev. There's a whole inward battle there. I think the Ukraine came along with Yeltsin as well as I'm sorry, I don't remember now, but two other regions came with him, and that was a bloc that broke up the Soviet Union. It was Yeltsin's plan.
What is the next piece I need?
Make the Russian Federation, and they did.
I
I
forget.
would love to return back to JFK eventually, because he's such a fascinating figure in the history of human civilization. But let me ask you, fast forward, in 2000, Yeltsin
Nope.
was no longer president.
Unlimited.
Vladimir Putin became president. You did
Brain and where?
a series
Where does it
of
say?
interviews with Vladimir Putin, as you mentioned, over a period of
The
2
Flare
years,
Dungeon?
2015 to 2017.
Is that in the Great Marsh?
Let me ask with a high-level question.
Or in the Flare Jungle,
What was
right?
your goal with that conversation?
Came out in 2017. I guess I started them in 2014. At that point,
Okay.
the Snowden affair had happened. I was working on a movie on Snowden. That happened in 13. Ukraine happened in 14.
Yeah.
And one thing after another. By 14, Pope Putin was enemy number, again, becoming a wanted man.
Yeah, I was you like 3 days ago.
Enemy, he was certainly in the top 5.
Oh, I know it's
But
pain.
the animosity toward Putin had been growing since 2007 at Munich. I remember that speech when he made it. It's in my documentary. It's a 4-hour documentary. 4 different conversations. I mean, we talked over 2 years,
What?
2.5 years. But I remember that image of him at Munich making a very important speech about world harmony.
Spirit
about the
Intimidation, I
balance
guess.
necessary in the world. And I remember the sneer. The
Nice.
sneer on
I'll do the
John
Jade
McCain's
thing.
face. He was in Munich,
Real quick, so we can.
obviously eyeballing Putin and hating him. And it was so evident that McCain had no belief whatsoever.
Maybe like a week
He was
ago.
almost treating them like these are the communists.
Maybe like 4 or 5 days
We
of
know that
grinding.
Putin was not a communist. We know that Putin is very much a market man.
Because
And
you
made
just
no-
you go
he
fire
made it very clear and tried to
till
keep
you
an
get to
open
hell
climate.
for like level
A
50
new
or so, then you go
relationship with
cold.
Europe. But the United States always, certain people in the United States always saw that as a threat.
And after
like
you go cold,
Putin is trying to take Europe away from
and
us.
pretty
as if
much
we own it, as if we
start,
have the right to own it. But Putin was making the point. It's very important about sovereignty.
Sorry, I'm trying to.
Sovereignty for a country is crucial for this new world.
Once you
to
go
have
cold,
balance.
you can kill a
That's
lot of
sovereignty
stuff
for
in
China,
hell.
Sovereignty
You
for
can do
Russia,
meth runs. You can
sovereignty for Iran.
do
sovereignty
kind of
for
chaos runs, just
Venezuela, sovereignty for
one
Cuba.
side and then the other
This is
side.
an idea that's crucial to the new world, and I think the United States has never accepted that.
What's the next piece and where is it?
That they
Is it
can allow.
underneath the
You have to
bazaar?
be
Or in the sewers,
obedient
right?
to the United States idea of so-called democracy and freedom. But it's much more important is sovereignty for these countries, and the United States has not obeyed that, has not even acknowledged it, and it never comes up.
So from the perspective of the United States, when power centers arise in the world,
Yes.
you start to oppose those, not because of the ideas, but merely because they have power.
Isn't that at the heart of the doctrine of the neoconservatives in the Pact for the New American Century?
Oh,
they
no
wrote
problem.
down in 1996-7.
You don't gotta be sorry.
They said there shall be no emergence of a rival power. It was very clear it was about power, and they've stuck to that doctrine, which is if you start to get dangerous in any way or have power, we're going to knock you out. Now that won't work. But I don't believe it can work, and that is unfortunately a policy the United States is following. And the neoconservatives group, which is very small, but it's very strong apparently, and their idea has resonated. It was behind George Bush's invasion of Iraq. It was part of not only Iraq, but cleaning out the whole world, draining the swamp, going to Afghanistan first, and then although Iraq had nothing to do with Al-Qaeda's attack, going after them. And of course 60-some other countries that were terrorism.
How long have I been streaming? Do you mean today or ever?
Signs of wherever America judged would be a dangerous country, we had the right. You're either with us or against us. That is a disastrous policy.
Yeah, I have some
And led
stuff
to one thing
recorded.
after another, the Iraq War.
I gotta edit and upload of me cooking. Ever?
The neoconservatives were never
Well,
fired,
I streamed
never thrown out of office. The people who prosecuted
probably
the war
about
are still
5
around.
years ago,
Many of them are
pretty
still around.
consistently for a year or two
They're
on a
obviously guiding America now.
Let me
a
return
different spot,
to the
but
discussion of power.
I stopped for a while due
Don't
to
forget the sneer.
some
that I
unfortunate
saw.
circumstances I was
That
in.
emblemized the
Very
United
bad
States reaction. Also,
mental
there
spot,
were
but
several other American
I'm good
representatives
now, and I've been
who were
streaming
laughing, kind of
more regularly, only a very short amount
It
of
was
time.
very serious.
But it'll build up.
That was a divide there.
People seem to like me. Oh, I didn't realize how freaking dark it had
And
gotten.
since then,
Sorry.
in a certain sense, the
Turn
European
my-
reaction to Putin is crucial.
Like my bald spot right there.
They were more with him back then, and a big
That was
thing
messed
for
up,
America
boy.
was always to keep NATO, to keep Europe.
I'd hear that,
in
yeah.
its
Oh,
pocket
me too.
As a satellite. And with
Listen,
this
you gotta
recent
go
war,
through
of
tough
course,
times to
succeeded
get to good time.
in all beyond their dreams. The Russians have fulfilled
Bad times
the
make
fantasy
tough
of the
men.
United States to finally be this
Tough men make
aggressor
good times.
that they have pictured for years. We can talk about that later.
But at that time,
It's a
there
little
was,
bright.
Europe had
Actually,
significant support for Putin.
just don't want it
the
to
United
be.
States was sneering.
Where
at
the
Putin.
fuck is this?
That's correct. You can say
God, I hate this.
So there's
I hate this. This is the worst.
It was. There was uncertainty as to the direction, as to the future of Russia, and that's exactly when you interviewed Vladimir Putin.
I wanted
Yeah,
to
I've been
know
there.
what they thought because we couldn't get the information war that the United
Oh
States
shoot!
was fighting against
Nice,
Russia
man. That's awesome.
in evidence back then. It was full out. The condemnation of Russia on all fronts. I never saw
Here's the
a
waypoint.
positive article about Putin. And although when I traveled in the world, and I traveled a lot doing documentaries, it was very clear in the
You can
Middle
walk with
East,
me. I'll be
in
safe.
Africa, in Asia, there was respect for him. That he was a man who was getting his job done in the interests of Russia. He was, as I said in the documentary, a son of Russia. Very much so, in the positive sense, a son of Russia. Not that he's out there trying to destroy the interests of other countries. No, that he was out there to promote the interests of Russia, but at the same time keep a balance, keep
Quarter of the
keep
waypoint
the
is up.
world into a harmony. This has always been his picture. Peace was always his idea. In other words, he always referred to the United States in all these interviews as our partners. And I said, will you stop using that word? They're not.
Well,
And he was a little bit slow in waking up to what the United States was doing.
well, that said, he's one of the most powerful men in the world. He was at that time. And let me ask you the human question. As the old adage goes, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
If you
you
grab the soul
see
stone, I'll do your forge
any
if
corroding
you want.
effects of power on
Obviously, you
man?
keep whatever it is,
Forget the
but you
political
might as well
leader,
get
just a human being
anything you
that
can get.
carries that power on his shoulders
That's up to you.
for so many years.
Keep in mind that
Don't worry, I
he's
won't steal
been
your forge.
unlike
Do you
most
want it or
modern
no?
leaders, he's been in office
If not, that's fine.
off and on because there was a Medvedev was president, and he was not
I just talked to
literally in
Ian, who will
charge.
give it to you.
He took another appointment at that point, but he was still very much involved. But for 20 years, more or less, he's been at the administrator of the state, protector of the state, and he's apparently done a good enough job that the Russian people have kept him there. Because contrary to what many people think, I really believe that if the Russian people didn't want him, he would be out. I firmly believe that. I don't think you can go against the will of the people. Now, it expresses itself in many ways, at the ballot box and so forth, but also in other ways in Russia. There's a strong current of opinion. So contrary to what the position of him as a dictator, he wouldn't last if he was unpopular, number one. Number two, Russia is much more divided than people know. There's other factors in Russia. There are always tensions around the Kremlin, who has power, who doesn't have power. That's been going on.
I'll just go start to clear the
100
chaos.
years. But the factions in Russia are very
Need help,
much
just
there.
let me
So
know.
when people refer to Russia as Putin, they're mistaken. And they do this regularly in the New York papers and all this. Putin did this, Putin did that, Putin's doing it. But it's Russia that's doing it. And that's what, there's a distinction there that it's changed. In the old days, I would read about Khrushchev, but it was never Khrushchev personally. It was about the Soviet Union.
Alrune, awesome.
For a country. And that, when it started to get personal with Putin, it changed. And our thinking changed in a negative way. We no longer respected it as a country. We were seen it as a man. And the man we had trashed repeatedly as a poisoner, as a murderer, none of which has ever improved, but which has always been repeated and repeated to the point at which it becomes like an Orwell mantra. It becomes like, he is, of course, the bad guy.
Can I just ask you, as a great filmmaker and as a human being, what was it like talking to one of the most powerful men in the world?
Honestly, I'm not naive. I've talked to a lot of powerful people. In the movie business, there are powerful people,
Yes.
and many of them are corrupted. I've talked to many people in my life. I've been in the military. I've had other jobs. I have to say, I found him to be a human being. I just found him to be reasonable, calm. I never saw him lose his temper. And I mean, you have to understand that most people in the Western way of doing business get emotional. I don't see that. I saw him as a balanced man. As a man who
still
had
Tomb, still
studied this like
24.
you have. There's a calmness to you that comes from studying the world and having a rational response to it. It's interesting. His two daughters, one of them is very scientific, and the other one's doing very well in another profession. But they're a thinking family. His wife too was. I can't talk for the new wife because I don't know about it. But he kept his family with great respect. He's raised his daughters right. He served Yeltsin the way he looked at it. He served Yeltsin well, and he never trashed Yeltsin. Certainly, a lot of people did. You know, I asked him repeatedly, you know, was he an alcoholic, this or that? But he wouldn't even go that far. Just respect. And this man Yeltsin was in many ways ridiculed, by the Russians, and he turned over the power because he felt like he was overwhelmed. He turned over the power to this man because why? How many people had he fired before him? Several prime ministers, this, that. Why did he turn power over to Mr. Putin? Because he respected him for his work ethic and his balance, his maturity.
Is that waypoint for whenever?
And that's what I can say is I saw in him.
Ready?
A poor person.
Should be pretty easy to do the ancients once you're
up
leveled up a bit.
through the KGB. Americans keep saying he's a KGB agent, but it's like saying, you know, George Bush was a CIA agent, but you know, he became you grow in your life, and he went from the KGB to this technocratic position. He dealt with many problems.
Is there any waypoint that you need?
Chechnyan War, which is a very difficult situation, as well as the Russians.
I guess not really. You have the river, you have the Ancient's Way, and you have canyons, so you can do
experience.
you can do
And he
tomb
handled
runs.
them all pretty well.
So
You think he was an honest man?
I do. Now, of course, the question of money, the charges that he's the richest man in the world are ludicrous. He certainly doesn't live like it or act like it. If you're rich, I've been around a lot of rich people in my life. You
Right.
probably have too. In America, you run into them.
yeah, just
Somebody
do
arrogant.
I'm actually
do tombs till
friends now with
24
the richest man in the world.
or 25 really,
Similar
and then you
interviews
can
with
do
Well,
chaos
still,
runs
I appreciate it. At least he
are
speaks
good.
Really.
Well, go to 24, do
I'm
Ancients to
positive
25,
about
and then
him
do
owning
battle
Twitter
runs till
because
you're like
Twitter has become
45.
Censorship. City
Then go to the
that
next
has all
one.
major tech.
Kind of the
censorship
same
that we've
idea.
not seen in the United States
You can
is
even
so
go cold
unbearable.
at that point because you'll just crush
Shocking to me.
everything in
And
Nightmare.
he's a
in Nightmare.
resistance to that. That is true.
Yeah, I like Musk for that. Just for that.
Okay, I was gonna get off before that, but I wanted to help you out before I pieced out. They're actually, I mean, they're half decent. I will Yeah, just add me. It's I forget what my battle net is. There you go. You can add me, and I'll add you back. I will see you guys either in a little while after I take a break, or I will see y'all tomorrow. So thank you for the follows. I appreciate it. Good night.